Okay.
All right, hello, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order, please. Judy, if you do the roll.
Yes, Judy Neville, Tom Schulte.
Here.
Amy Carroll, Todd Lavieri, Michael Chin is out, Chris Labrie,
Here.
Victor Alvarez, Maria Weingarten. No, or maybe, or no. Robert Hamel,
Here.
Colin Dobbin, he's, yeah, there, okay. James
Here.
Yao. Good, all right,
There's really
so
no reason to see, and James is not,
he's, who just said?
call me.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay,
Here.
all right,
We're
I
not
know, I
voting.
know you're here.
We
All
don't,
right.
we don't need to
We
vote,
don't
seat
need to
anybody. We're not
seat,
voting on
okay.
anything tonight. This is
All
a review of the two big budgets, so. Okay, with that, John, we'll have you kick us off, Parks and Rec.
Sounds good.
Thanks for the deck. Fantastic. I just can't look at that anymore.
Yeah, I know.
I just,
I know, I'm, so where is it on here?
we're not gonna
No,
vote
we're
on
not
anything. It's
going
okay.
to.
There's nothing to vote on. If you have the key, these are the pages.
Yes, I know,
Recreation.
but it's annoying.
There's Maria. Maria's
Oh,
here.
good, all right. Oh, my God.
Maybe before we get started, what's the latest with the train? What
It's fixed.
pick and any injuries?
I
Any-
heard one.
Yes. The conductor.
That makes sense. Okay.
And when
And
was
James is here.
this? When is, oh, good, all right.
That was this
Everybody's-
morning.
Okay.
Well, it
Oh,
looks like
jeez.
that support guard worked, right? That big metal piece,
It did push it.
It
into-
did its
into
job.
the soil, yeah.
right?
Interesting. Okay, good. Okay, over to you. Good.
Oh,
Okay.
guys. When they,
Why is this thing down? It was down early. Oh, internet connection. Jeez.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
As you guys know, I'm John Howe and I'm here to present the Park and Rec budget. I've got the best job in the world, just so you know, so I appreciate this. It's been a big challenge over the last just over a year with everything, and I'm still finding things out with Steve Benko just took care of that nobody knew about. So every day is a good challenge. But with that said, with the Parks and Rec Department, we have 22 full-time employees. And way over 100 part-time employees working through the town. So this the part-time employees includes program instructors, lifeguards, counselors. And then the key management staff. Todd Decline, Superintendent of Parks, took over my position. Ryan Restivo, he's the Assistant Superintendent of Park. We got Zach Philippus, who's the Assistant Recreation Director that we hired a few months ago. Steve Dayton, who's a rec supervisor and also the Aquatics Director. Aggie Aspinwall, the Director of Lapham Community Center, and Kathleen Collins, the Assistant Director of Lapham. We make your leisure time more fun. And that's what's nice about the job. Part of our mission statement, we enhance the quality of life for New Canaan residents. We foster beneficial use of personal and family time, and then we provide and promote a wide variety of quality recreation facilities, services at a reasonable cost. So from after-school programs, anything from grit ninja type things to a walk in the park, we're behind it all. So. And then everything in between, there's Connor Field this fall. The Family Fourth. Father-daughter dance, a new program we initiated that sold out in 18 hours. So Halloween ball, 3 seatings with breakfast with Santa. Of course, the Steve Benko pool, Lapham Community Center. And then, of course, weddings and other events at Waveney. And then all the lacrosse pitchers, even from people that are a couple of years out of high school.
who is it?
So, anything from lacrosse to all the racket sports, the playgrounds, baseball, soccer, both on grass and natural turf. And the maintenance of all these. Of course, grooming the athletic fields, that still happens. The snow removal picture hasn't happened this year, but that's all right. And then even the color drop.
Sorry, too.
We hope, yeah.
Yeah, I'll still go with you. So with this, we have many partners in this mission, from the Athletic Foundation, all the sports groups, Beautification League, elementary and middle schools with our before and after school programs, Exchange Club, Garden Club, high school athletics, Waveney Park Conservancy, and I'm sure there's many other ones that I forgot. When I gave the presentation to the Board of Selectmen, we had 8 divisions. But thankfully from you guys, right after that, we now have 9. So civic activity, administration, Waveney House, paddle tennis, parks, buildings, Lapham Community Center, Kiwanis Park, pool, park maintenance, and then, of course, the new one, self-sustaining fund. Civic activities. So the one thing we've done with civic activities, we've decided to take out a lot of the money that was in there. Over the years, there's been a lot of money that's been put into special projects accounts. And we can use that money for things like the concerts. So we've lowered that number down to accommodate that. We might as well use that money up. Right about now, we have at least 10 years worth of money without having to have it go to the taxpayers. So. Of course, rec administration. Before, this was our biggest one, but now with the self-sustaining fund, we've removed money from rec administration to run our programs. So in that, we have a great staff. You know, Zach, a lot of energy, a lot of knowledge for a very young guy that's taken over, hit the ground running when he started here. Steve Dayton, he's probably got the most knowledge of anybody of the facilities up there, along with Butch. Dee has the history and the knowledge of all the recreation, and Debbie keeps all the finances in check. And so with people have said, as I took over, you're going to have to hire about 3 people to take over for Steve. And I still feel that way, but I don't feel that we're at a point now where I want to put in people. I'm not sure exactly where we would. I'm not saying we won't come back a year from now, but I'd like to go through more another year to see. So the record, the self-funding, self-sustaining fund, that's going to be a good change for us, because right now we're almost at the point where we're running out of money, and we'd be coming back to you looking for money just so we could get through the spring. So with that, we didn't change our numbers as far as asking for more money, switching it to the self-sustaining fund. So we're at the same request we would have had if we didn't have the self-sustaining fund. So of those, you know, that we remove stuff out of there so that we can still keep running the programs. Other changes in rec administration, I'm just going to hit on the high points. Property repair and maintenance. There's things that have been deferred for many years, and I'd like to get back on top of them. Anything from sporting goals to anything and everything recreation. Just, you know, the snow blowers to clean the snow off the paddle courts. You know, we should have proper equipment for both the facilities and for the staff. We also transfer some money into the parks department that is more park related. Equipment repair money, repairing the trails. There's no need to have trail repair money in 2 separate budgets when we're managing in the same place. So. Okay, Waveney weddings.
Just before we go there, just a real quick question on you mentioned we need to have the equipment for plowing the snow or doing with it. Do we have everything we need?
We are very well equipped.
Yeah.
With that said, equipment ages out.
Sure.
Yeah. So is there newer equipment out there that we can benefit from? Yes. But with what's been provided in the capital equipment budget, we're in a good place.
We're okay for now. Okay.
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay.
Doesn't mean there's no requests this year by any means, but we're in a good place.
Gotcha.
So I'm sorry, is the equipment now more under Tiger's budget going forward?
There is a parks equipment
Mhm.
equipment area. Yes.
Right, but that's
That's all under capital under Tigers. Yeah.
right. Okay.
So, yeah, you'll hear that from him.
But things like fences and stuff like that, that's you guys.
That's us guys.
Right.
You know, like Waveney fences,
Backstops. and stuff.
backstops, all the padding, et cetera,
Mhm.
wind screens, all that stuff is under.
And so when you say that, for example, the equipment repairs or trail repairs are being transferred into your budget, does that mean they're transferring
They're transferring out of recreation.
out of
the money
recreation? Got it.
Going into the parks maintenance budget.
Got it.
So.
Okay, so all the maintenance of the facilities will be through
Yep.
Public Works.
It goes through Public Works. I still oversee the
Sure.
guys, so I go there every morning to see them and discuss what we're doing and stuff
Right.
like that. You know, I've developed that budget for 24 years.
You know what's going on. Yep.
You know, I like to keep having my hands involved in that. So weddings and events. With that, you know, we've moved that into this into the special self-sustaining fund too, with a part-time wedding coordinator. We've taken some of the money for the staff. Butch, who takes care of the buildings, he's the house manager. Some of his money is going directly there when he works weddings with the overtime and advertising, and then the equipment, china, silverware, since that's really used for weddings and events, that's gone into that separate fund.
Okay, so John, next year, I mean, this is the first year we're doing will the self-sustaining fund kind of have a carve out for weddings? So you can see kind of a break even, like this, how much revenue we did, and these are expenses. So we'll be able to true that up.
Similar to the way the pool fund is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
If you look on page 32, there's that breakdown, at least the preliminary way that it's separated out.
Yeah.
And I are working on getting with accounts are really gonna fall into the whole section of that.
Yes.
I have one more question on this, and I missed the subcommittee meeting because I had to be at a funeral, but with scheduling the weddings, right? Is there, you know, I know with like the fields, there was the group of three who figured out, you know, what fields might be available for non-school events for, you know, the new public-private partnership. So with the weddings, is there like some sort of priority, like there's town events are happening, it has first priority? I mean, is every day available for wedding or?
No,
Yeah.
right now, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, they're available for weddings and events like that. Nonprofit town organizations can have stuff in the evening,
Okay,
during the week.
During the week. Okay.
Yes. But the weddings are Friday, Saturday, or Sunday.
okay.
So.
And that will, I mean, are there town things that take priority, for instance, the post-prom party, stuff like that? Are there
Yes.
town events that are like, no, these happen first and these revenue opportunities only after this building that is the town's building is used for the town as opposed to being rented out for
Correct.
individual weddings?
The post-prom,
Right.
they had a couple possible dates, and I sent them an email in the wintertime saying, this will be your date, because we had the opportunity to have a wedding on the other date, and it worked fine. So
Okay,
they had their date, things like the fireworks,
Yeah.
you know, that ties up basically 2 weekends in July because of the rain date. So the town events usually go in first.
yeah, that's what I want to make sure, because again, this is a town asset. We're trying to raise a little money from it, but I think we can't lose sight of the fact that the taxpayers of this town have spent a fortune maintaining Waveney, so that the extent that we have town priority events or town events, they should take priority as opposed to somebody who wants to book a wedding.
Exactly.
Amy, can I call your attention also to the fact that we've just launched and we're getting a press release out in the next day or two, the new Waveney events website, waveneyhouseevents.com. It's live, so you're welcome to look at it. And you'll see that we have a whole page dedicated to community spaces. That's very much a priority of the website. While there's a lot of wedding and event features, there's also a page all about community space and community events.
That's great. I mean, it wasn't in the conversation, so I just wanted to ask that.
So in Waveney House, we also have some other things that need to be done under outside services contractors and major maintenance. This is a similar thing of deferred maintenance. The major maintenance is more appliances. We have kitchen appliances that are very old, that our repair budget was through the roof this last year. We need to be replacing some of them, and that we're evaluating them now. And the change in outside services contractors is to deep clean the house. A couple times a year, anything from washing the windows to a thorough
Yeah,
ducting.
yeah.
and-
Yeah. You can use it for
It's a
weddings.
beautiful
and-
house.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
We-
gorgeous,
Quick
iconic.
question though, what are these numbers?
Yeah.
What's the $10,000? Is that,
The $10,000 is an increase
yeah, that's
to
what,
the budget, and that's for the deep clean.
that's what you mean by major changes.
That,
So it's
yeah,
a
the major
$10,000
maintenance is the appliances. The 10,000 for outside services contractors is the deep cleaning of the.
Okay, so the recommended, so, okay, so the last year's budget was 19,250.
Yeah.
You're asking for 29,250, major change, 10 grand.
Exactly.
Got
I'm
it.
sorry.
Okay. And same thing with the maintenance, 20,000,
Yep.
same thing. So the maintenance request is 35,000,
Yes.
20 more than last year. And just, what's that?
Major maintenance is more the appliances than anything. This isn't the heating system per se. If, you know, we're just working on a plan, if that goes down, what to do. But this is mainly the kitchen appliances. Anything,
Replacing them?
not for the 20,000.
Well,
This is, this is,
35,000.
right. The major maintenance includes a lot of things with Waveney House, but the reason for the increase is because of the age of the appliances. We had to have one of the sinks welded a couple of weeks ago. It's just one thing after another.
We don't have contracts out with anyone that comes in and does all this for us as opposed to all these
We looked at,
isolated.
them for the kitchen appliances. It really didn't seem like it was worth it.
Really?
You know, to have somebody come in to look at something that, like the stove won't probably have any problems. It could, but it's a gas stove that is quality. So
Well, if you invite someone in to look for a problem, they'll find one.
Oh, they. will.
that's right.
So you're making a distinction between contract services and property cleaning, right?
Yes, the property cleaning is what is done right now. The outside services contractors cleaning that we want to do is more of a deep clean. It's not the day-to-day maintenance.
Right, and the property repair and the major maintenance, you're also making a distinction there that they're both up.
Property repairs didn't go up too much, though, right?
24,000.
Property cleanings, yeah, it's 54,200. That stayed the same. It's like, am I reading that right? Yeah. What were you, Chris? Which one? Property repair and maintenance? It's the same. That's up 4,000. That's the one. Yeah. So that's the question. What's property repair and maintenance may not be Waveney though. Right?
Yeah.
What's?
Are you looking under the Waveney House one?
Which page are
Yeah,
you?
what
on,
you're looking,
John?
John.
'Cause I'm
You're on
3
Waveney
pages
House,
here.
this budget on Waveney House on page 19,
Yeah, that was on page.
it has the amounts. You're looking at actually, those items are for recreation administration. I don't know what, those could be for lots of things, those. Those
Under
items.
the buildings?
Yeah.
Yes, that's under all the buildings in the
That's different.
parks.
Yeah.
It's different.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
You gotta be on 19 for Waveney. Okay. Okay, so these are the additional, the increases in the request. Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
And when you do the appliance, so you'll be looking at things like those big industrial stoves that are in there, right?
Big industrial stoves, the refrigeration units, the freezers, all
Now, those are big units.
big units. And that's the thing. But we need them to have weddings and events.
Yeah, but those are things you have to special order, right? I mean. these
Oh,
aren't,
definitely.
you know, These are.
Yeah,
industrial.
those would be capital purchases.
Yeah.
We weren't at a point where we could say we're going to recommend that we replace this freezer for this much. So that's why it's not in our request for capital.
Okay,
So have you taken everything that you can into the self-sustaining fund
We believe everything that
appropriately?
appropriately
Should
should
be in
go in
there.
there.
Yeah.
Like
okay.
Josh said, we're still working on it,
no, I
getting
understand.
through, but yes.
First year.
Things like property repairs, that we would be maintaining the house anyway. Which doesn't restrict it, exactly. Include you to, let's say, weddings. We would keep the house in good condition anyway.
Mhm.
We would keep any of the courts in good condition. That. Salaries and supplies. Those are the things that's support the programs that he runs that get brought over, at least for now. As it becomes more and more sustainable, we can bring more things over or return money back to the general fund to.
Or cover more expenses. You don't return anything, just reduce the expense. That'd be the right thing to do, I think.
But what is
Right,
the
just use it for your expenses.
Exactly.
Yeah, that
Um,
makes sense.
What does the property repair maintenance of $7,500 include or not include this 20,000 plus the 10,000? On 18,
See, unfortunately, I don't have the same page. numbers.
it's recreation. I don't know if that's a different. I'm just wondering, it's so many pockets of this
Mhm.
repair and maintenance. And if we isolated all of that for all of recreation and all of public works, what is the real number here? It's broken down so that it's hard to figure out, because there's another one here on the, each one, it's a lot. When you add them all up,
Correct.
it's a lot.
But as far as offhand, I could not give you the total.
Well, so you had two questions. One, the property repair and maintenance, that's the one that I think Chris mentioned is $7,500, up 4,000. I appreciate all the detail, but that isn't.
Tennis, for instance, there's another 18,000.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
And I think that's what Judy's getting at.
I mean, I went through all of them. I'm sitting here on 3 pages. I can't even in my head figure out why this either can't overlap or it's same person. And then you go back to page 16 and that's another chunk. I mean, can't we do better than that?
That's a good request.
To look at all.
I'll
of it.
sum all those up and then,
Yeah.
and you probably do look at it as in a total sum and then you're assigning it to things, but it would be good to know, okay, it's $75,000 all in for all this stuff and the courts are this and the house is that and the whatever. It's probably how you broke it back out.
Well, actually, we went and looked at where
Yeah, bottom up.
money was spent
Yeah.
in the past
Yeah.
and went from there with these numbers. So,
Okay.
but I can easily do that.
You know, one of the
Good enough.
things I'm questioning is with the carve out of the self-sustaining fund, I don't get a good sense for how the overall expenses are growing. Because you have like the rec civic activity dropping by 74%, the recreation administration dropping by 54%. But if you add in the self-sustaining fund, what is the overall growth in the expenses? Do you have a sense for that?
Sense for that, we stayed very low. Overall, like the civic activities, I keep that separate. They're really small numbers. Percentage wise, they're high percentages being carved out of there, but it wasn't a lot of money. And what we did there is going to be done under some special projects accounts. So
Well,
it's really not affecting the town budget per se.
I'm asking your
Separate.
question a little differently, Victor. So our budget this year is $1.383 million. The request is on this page, 620. That's the 748 reduction for the things that went into the self-sustaining. But what's in the are
Yeah.
there other things in the self-sustaining? What does it all add up to for, and I guess what are the revenues? The revenues must equal that or be a click more.
Can we see that itemized in the self-sustaining,
Sure.
what's included? And then where it would be taken out here?
Is it just these
presumably-
items where you've zeroed them out?
Presumably, or?
No, some of the numbers you're seeing zero out are where we put money into the parks maintenance budget. What came out of our budget request went to the self-sustaining fund. It didn't change our percentage. I think our rec percentage then was around 4.5%
Increase.
increase.
Okay.
For the rec administration, you got to take each one of these separate divisions
Mhm.
separately.
Mhm.
So,
I think rec we at like 2.9%.
okay.
Okay.
I have what we were looking at when we started the Board of Selectmen meetings. It was, not about final numbers. We were still trimming some stuff out of it, but we hadn't yet pulled out recreation from the general fund budget into the self-sustaining. The rec admin was at 2.9.
Okay. All right. That answers your question.
But
Oh, there you
is
go.
the draft form that we have, this is before the self-sustaining?
No, this
or
is
After?
this is post. This has the self-sustaining out. So these big numbers that are coming
Oh.
out, 400,000, 200,000, those
Yeah,
are
no, I
going in.
get that. Yeah, but
Those are the ones
that's
going in.
all of it.
self-sustaining.
This is the final draft, not just, okay, a draft. All right.
Provide some context to the department, bearing in mind all the numbers. Kind of ballpark of what they actually are, so they're.
I just had a question on the revenue from weddings from Waveney. It looks like 110,000. Is that right? Or for this year? I'm looking at page 25. Rental of property Waveney. Correct? Is 110,000. Is that for another purpose or is that? Are the weddings segregated? I would think it'd be more than 110,000 for the year, right?
I'm not sure exactly where you are. Sorry,
Page
I don't have-
25.
Oh, you don't have the budget. do you
I
have
don't
budget
have the
book?
budget.
Oh,
book.
okay.
That's,
Oh, okay. 32. Because I'm looking at page 25, there's a recreation rental of property Waveney. It's 110,000 for the year. It looks like. Or it was.
It was 110, that was the wedding.
Like for this current fiscal year that ends in
was
June,
110.
and the next year is the projection's gonna go up 80,000, right?
Let's just,
Okay, great.
That's a 1 year, I think.
Okay, so it's so what is the total? 195 is the total. Okay, great.
194.
I have 194 plus the
Okay,
5,000,
great,
so
great.
yeah. 194 up from.
Yeah.
110,
110.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
some of that is a little bit more weddings also.
Yeah.
You know, we're kind of a year behind when we do a price increase because 23 is almost all booked up. It's not all booked up, but the main dates are all booked up for weddings.
How
So-
has the price changed? What is the wedding rental rate change by?
But yeah, just went through, so it hasn't gone into effect yet, but we don't go back to anybody
Oh, I
that's
know,
already
sure.
booked yet.
But how much is it gonna change from? It was a real bargain.
I feel it's still a bargain,
Mhm.
if, you know, if you want Waveney, it's definitely a good bargain. Oh, okay, perfect. So still giving about a 10% discount for being a resident. So we've gone to a 3-tier structure. There's the main months are May, June, September, and October. So we've raised up the Saturday rates up to 7,500 from 5,500 for out of towners and 6,000 for in town and 55 and that was 5,000 for residents before. So the Saturday is the main day that people want.
Mhm.
So then Friday and Sundays are down about $1,000 for they're at 6,500 for non-residents and they're at 5,500 for residents.
Mhm.
So, and
Okay.
that, so does that answer your
Sounds like a
question?
great deal.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's.
It's still a very
For
good
what it
deal.
is, particularly.
We do
the
have
more-
some limitations.
We put more money into it, do things with it, that's
The
good.
anticipation is that once we put the elevator in and
Right.
other things like that, that will even
Yeah.
take it to the next level.
Mhm.
As you know, we studied this and we looked at
Mhm.
all the different comps around. And while it is still a bargain, there's going to be some interruptions going forward. And so we
Yeah.
tried to figure that
Yeah,
in.
yeah,
And
yeah.
these shoulder seasons are what we're capturing now. And July is off because the camp is there. So that's also a goal, is to get the camp completely moved out of Waveney House
Okay,
in years to come so that we can then really take
Good.
advantage of all the summer
That's
months
great.
at Waveney.
That's great.
for this.
We still don't have AC, right?
We still don't have AC, and that, once
That's
the
hard.
boiler fails or something, we've talked about it, but
Where will they go? The campers?
That's our biggest problem right
Well,
now.
yeah.
Where would they go?
Because it's just a beloved program. I
It-
mean,
it's
it's
a-
tough.
It's,
Yeah.
it's a great program. We're gonna make some nice changes this year.
Yeah.
Planning on having more kids and
Hmm.
we're going back to the longer program during the day
Mhm.
where they'll be able to go swimming and
Hmm.
stuff. So we think it's gonna be very successful. But
Oh, yeah.
unfortunately, we need a place in case of rain where the kids go.
Mhm,
So it's not like we can say, okay, we're not gonna use the house on
Mhm.
Fridays
mhm.
for camp. So
What about the lodge there?
it's unfortunate, it's
just
not big enough.
I know, but maybe if you split it up, I don't
might
know.
be, there's probably
Yeah.
some places in the future, but we've got other things to do too.
Oh,
And so anyway, the self-sustaining, you'll pay for the coordinator. It's nice to have a town discount for town residents. That's great.
Yes,
Good.
In terms of revenues, we always showed, it's been a discussion with the Y, we use Kiwanis for their camp. And that was always a revenue
Mhm.
reflected here. I don't see it anywhere, so I don't know where we are in terms of the rental rate.
That's a good
And I know we were talking about increasing it, but then it was COVID, so we completely,
It did.
rethought
It
that. I
did
don't,
go up last year and it will go up again this year to 15,000 for the year. But I thought that went into a different lease account possibly. Oh. Yeah,
right.
now, if it used to come in here, that's another subject.
So where is that in the budget? Pardon?
Well, no, I think it was 12 or 12.5 last year. Good.
Apartments, rental of property.
For which rental?
YMCA.
YMCA.
Can't-
Kiwanis.
can't run that Kiwanis.
Kiwanis, can we,
Well, that's under Qantas.
we-
There was, yeah, maybe not. Where is it?
we find that in the revenues?
Yeah.
See where it
We
is?
have a revenue sheet that we went through. Where is that?
Well, it's very high
Public
level though.
Works.
It's,
No, it was not, well,
well, it's high enough level.
I can hopefully find it.
I don't remember seeing Kiwanis on there, to be honest with
I
you.
don't know, maybe it was, yeah, where is that then?
Well, Josh, let us know where that is, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Parks? No?
Okay,
Okay.
paddle tennis.
So on to paddle tennis. A lot of the money in the paddle tennis budget is going into self-sustaining, the
Sure.
programs that we're running. That means the part-time salaries go over to the self-sustaining because that's the paddle tennis attendance salaries. We still do the major maintenance of the courts is still under the town budget because it turned it upside down. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be making the money that way. We wouldn't be able to self-sustain if we took all that out there. The one change in there is the every other year change, $18,000 to resurface courts. So that's something that
Hmm.
historically is every other year. So that's
Hmm.
back in this year. Now we're coming into the park buildings and you can see by this picture, it includes a lot of different buildings. So, anything from the Lapham to the Waveney Law or the Mead Park Lodge to the paddle tennis lodge. So, we've noticed an increase in refuse service, so we've had to increase that somewhat. Repairs and maintenance of the buildings. We'll get you those numbers. Judy,
And
but
and where are you on what page?
He's on
Are you-
one of the park buildings.
Well, we were
I think we're
on,
back to expenses, park.
what
expense.
Or park
pages?
building, bottom of 19.
Is it?
Why the increase in the refuse?
refuse hauler prices increased.
For the same amount of volume, just higher.
We haven't noticed any change in volume. So a little bit of the machinery, equipment, supplies, that's supply chain issues and what prices and inflation have done there. And then the utilities, electricity, fuel and propane are all done at the same thing. So you'll see with all the town budgets at 10%. Is it enough? Who knows?
So the electricity's doubled, what is it?
Well, I think you were at 62,000 this year for the fuel oil and the propane. And now you're asking for 68. And the electricity looks like 110 is going to 120, 10%.
Should be going 10%. That's what they were all calculated on for the utilities.
Oh,
on
year
page
to date,
19.
I was looking at, sorry.
Bottom of page
Yeah, sorry.
19. Yep.
Sure, sure.
So it's across the board?
Yes, limits, yeah.
No, I saw, but
Yeah, it's
is that,
guidance,
I
yeah.
guess that's everywhere, then, right?
We're not seeing any major changes in our usage plans. So you take a year like this, our lights out on the fields, yeah, we've used them a little bit more because there's people still out there playing on the fields with no snow, but
Isn't the refuse contract a contract? I
yeah,
mean, it's all, but yeah.
this is the dump in the dumpsters that we have here and there, like we have one at Lapham Community Center. That's where we've seen the uptick. It's those dumpsters that they come and haul. This isn't the transfer station per se.
But how did it go up that much this year if we had a contract year to date?
Well, we're going through contracts, change,
Did we bid it out or did?
we bid out most of it.
And did we do better versus what we are year to date or so?
Yeah,
So?
we're doing okay. We're
Oh,
not doing
really?
great.
No, it's like people are taking advantage too.
They do. They do. They
It's
put
wonder-
stuff
an
in.
inflationary time and everybody.
Well, no, because they said they, who's taking advantage? The haulers or?
No.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, I mean, you figure you can get more and then how many people did we bid it out?
I didn't shoot me offhand. I don't know.
But I mean.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it's a continuing figure.
Lapham?
Lapham. So there's a lot of programs run there. The seniors seem to be coming back more and more. We did not put Lapham in the self-sustaining fund because we think it's important that the town supports the seniors. And we also think without starting to charge them a lot more and having to remove a lot of the free programs they have, that it wouldn't be self-sustaining. So, and we didn't want to do that. So, little bit's gone up in salaries and then the 16 general materials costs, that type of stuff. So it's basically held fairly flat. Kiwanis Park, two major things we found in Kiwanis Park that we needed to raise up is we provide new sand to the beach every spring. And with that new sand, I don't know exactly where the extra money was coming from to pay for the sand, so we needed to increase that. And we also needed to increase the chlorine for two reasons. The number, it was upside down in the first place, and then we had a 25% increase in chlorine costs from our supplier for next year. So we had to incorporate that.
Maybe the money came from the Y rental.
Yeah, no kidding.
Serious, because
Yeah,
the
okay.
Y uses it. I mean,
Mhm.
Agreed.
You should know what that is, that number. I don't mean, we need to have that number.
Mhm.
10, okay.
so it's 10, it's not 15.
For the whole summer?
It's okay.
Been up from there because the contract had it raised up. It was gonna,
It's 15?
it was gonna be 15 for both, but then there was a compromise made to split the difference. Yeah, because this coming year should be 15.
That revenue would have, I don't know where, how you cover the costs of, the other.
For the
items.
sand, yeah.
Maybe.
So we've kind of gone through some revenues, things that aren't going into the self-sustaining fund, the dog park fees and the concessions from the Apple Carts contract down at Mead Park. And then under Lapham, there's the money from the programs that they do bring in. So Steve Benko Pool, which is a separate fund. We want to go through that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Before you go to the bank pool, or maybe this is for everything, and again, I apologize, I was supposed to be at the meeting, and what would be really terrific for us to see? And they would, how many people are using everything? Like, how many kids are in this program? How many people, so that, this is kind of the expenses associated and the revenues, but it would be really terrific for people. I mean, it shows how much it's used, and then, if you can roll it up kind of like, and they would always do this, like the park and rec costs X amount, but it brings in this much revenue. So for every dollar, that we would, I think it was always the way picked up about 60 cents on the dollar for what we contributed. And that's a great way to look at, how the town invests in the park, but how much people really offset the cost.
I will try to get you
Yeah.
that. And the reason I say try to
It
get
was
you
a little
that, we've got a
tricky.
problem with our old recreation software.
Sure.
Getting data, and we're switching into a
Okay.
new program. So, but yes.
Yeah, and it's a little tricky because you can do self-sustaining, but if we looked at holistically, the self-sustaining would be part of the revenues, right?
Yeah,
And, but I think that it's great for people in the town to know that, recs are used by this many discrete users and. It's there. Okay. Okay. Josh, I should ask you.
Gosh.
Oh, that's great. No, you're
Oh.
great. That's great.
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't do the
Yeah, that's
exact
true.
dollar comparison, but it's,
And then related to Kiwanis, using, because I read on the bottom there about having the snack bar open versus using a food truck. I mean, it might be better to outsource that.
we'd like to have either one. Last year, we had 3 different times that we had a vendor ready to go. And then for one reason or another,
No.
they either stepped away or one guy couldn't get his food license. But 2 of them, as they were ready to go, then they walked away as food trucks.
Okay.
They didn't feel they could make enough money to make it worthwhile.
And so that's the question is there good usage at Kiwanis? I know that's been,
There's been more usage. We ran some programs in conjunction with the library down there. The library did most of the work on the programs, which brought more people in there. That type of group in general wouldn't be using the concession stand the same way. They come in the morning, do their program, and then they'd be leaving. And that's what kind of happens,
Mhm.
you know, where the snack bar at the pool can be very successful, you know, and very busy. And we did put a food truck there due to staffing issues for one day a week at the pool this last year. So that then the staff that work 6 days a week instead of switching it over, but pool has a lot of people going through,
right.
so.
Was that well utilized? Was,
pool?
the
Food truck?
truck?
Yeah, it was a taco truck and it was,
Well, that-
it was on Tuesday and it was a nice change, so.
Taco Tuesday.
Taco Tuesday, yep.
Well, that's not a bad idea, way to
Bad
work it
idea.
in any park. I mean, to have a specific day if of high users or higher volume.
Not necessarily higher volume, but it gave the ability for for the staff to have a break. Otherwise, they
Yeah,
would have been
yeah.
working 7 days a week and trying to find a second set of staff last year was almost impossible, so.
What about on the pool fund? I see 172% increase on the property repair and maintenance.
We have a 20-year-old pool. And so in general, we had the selectmen approved over $100,000 of work. The beginning of the year, pools are set up, they have one pump. There's no duplex system or anything like that. So in the beginning of the year, I said, so what if this 20-year-old pump goes down? What do we do? I can have you one in 3 days. That's the most you'll be down. The end of July, he said, if your pump goes down, you're done for the year. So part of that is switching the pump over. They just weren't available. The end of the year, the mushroom in the kiddie pool, that pump went down and we got one of 3 in the country.
Oh,
You know, so it's that nerve wracking stuff. So we're working on that. We also had some major work with a few leaks in the pool. If you went by it today, you'd see there's no cover on it. It's drained out because they're working, since it's a great winter for getting work done, they're working on it now.
What's the fund balance in the pool fund balance, maintenance fund?
It's pretty deep.
Healthy.
Why wouldn't we use that fund for the 100,000? That's what it's for.
That's what it would be.
It was.
Oh, it's what, but the fund will,
Support that.
the fund is going to provide the money for that.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but it still needs to be budgeted. And the same thing will happen with like their self-sustaining fund.
Okay,
You'll be
I-
receiving a budget.
I'm good with that. I just want to make sure it's out of the expenses. Okay,
no, it's always,
Okay, good.
it's always
Yeah.
set up that way. from the
Good.
beginning, yeah.
what is the balance? $1 million. Yeah, okay, good. That's great.
And you have the same chlorine increase here, I think.
Same chlorine,
25%.
25%. Yeah.
And is the cleaning done with a service now as opposed to,
Both. Okay, so in the springtime, we had a few issues with the contractor coming in. They had staffing shortages. That worked out better towards the end of the year. We're putting the robot in more. We've actually purchased a second robot
Good.
that we will have for springtime. So we can easily switch it back and forth out when the Y comes to do their lab programs. So yes.
Great.
Mainly outside contractors, but we're doing a better job ourselves too on the pool. Outside contractors for inside the locker rooms, that's worked out great.
great,
We have a full full-time attendant while the pool's open,
Awesome.
to the locker rooms on Friday, Saturday and Sunday and any holidays. So that's helped a lot. I didn't receive any complaints about the condition of the bathrooms,
Excellent.
except, hey, there's some garbage in there, that type of thing.
That's great.
That's terrific.
That's day to day.
I was glad you were able to staff it last year too. That wasn't easy.
They did a good job, so. Tucker just gave this to me, so, $10,000 in 22 for the 23 camp, it went to 15,000.
Okay. So that should be in your revenue somewhere. We're talking about the
Somewhere.
revenues here. That ought to pop up as a line item in your presentation.
Okay.
Not to worry
I
about
don't know
that.
exactly where the money went.
It should come to you. Because it's about buying the sand and
Exactly.
keeping up Kiwanis. I
Yeah,
mean,
Okay, I just,
or Tiger, it should come,
Yeah, it's,
somebody.
it's
coming back to the
offset.
town someplace, yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be glad to have.
It should show some.
I assume that's the case, Tiger. I actually, yeah,
Right?
goes to him. Yeah. Good.
So our revenue, our fees that we're gonna charge for the pool, the revenues is basically gonna stay the same. When we raised our fees up for different programs, we raised the daily use fee from $10. Like if you were to play tennis as a guest fee, it's $10 for the day. We raised that up to $12. We raised the pool up to $12 because the same attendants work at the pool as work in other places, and we wanted to keep it nice and simple. But other than that, we're not changing any of the rates for family passes or anything like that. Of the money, the one thing that has come out of the pool account is the money to redo the roof for the solar panels and the solar panels themselves. So since the pool is directly benefiting from the reduced cost in electricity, that's being paid back. So now park maintenance, like I said, I've been developing the park maintenance budget, but Tiger's going to keep presenting it because it's still in his budget. So, but at any point in time, I'll be here and be glad to answer any questions.
Okay.
So, other than that.
Any other questions?
No, I think, yeah.
Great job. Thank you.
Yeah,
John.
it's-
Thanks, John.
It's a lot of
Now they-
moving parts.
Cupcake.
Now I'll have to come here.
Yeah, we're all on the run going out, I think.
Thank you.
I was gonna go eat a cupcake back there.
Hey,
Oh, thank you.
Little something yourselves.
Tiger.
Look at that.
Look at this.
This
is football.
Awesome.
I'd like to say that I gave him this idea. but I
Thank
had
you
nothing to
very
do with
much.
Oh,
it.
are you kidding?
There you go. That's a good trade.
Transparent.
That's a good trade. I gotta read these numbers more closely. I didn't think it was that big of an ask, but
I'm
now.
gonna
I
take a picture and send it to John.
Wow.
Right,
Trying to remember what the Board of Ed gave us. Oh, that's right. Nothing.
It's not over.
right.
The ante just went up with your chocolates.
We are live. Chris. Just saying. Just saying. It's a live show.
Yeah.
All right, so what? I'm going back to the one we did on the meeting.
So this is incentive to come to the meeting.
Yeah, Bob, I was just gonna say, Bob and
Yes.
Colm, I mean,
Sorry.
you had to be here. You gotta play to win. You gotta be here to.
A lot of happy spouses tonight, no doubt.
I don't need the extra calories. Thank you there.
Are we okay?
We're good.
All right, well, thank you very much for having us. I asked my staff to stay home since it was Valentine's Day, but I wish you guys a happy Valentine's.
Thank you.
You.
Same to you.
If there's any questions, we can certainly gather them up and answer. You know, some will be listening, but I told them to spend time with their families. So going forward, this is us. 57 strong, 8 divisions. Dr. Lutzy did a really nice job
during
Thank
his
you.
presentation where he talked about his product. You know, he spent about an hour on his product. It was fantastic. So I decided that I needed to speak about my product. or my product. So our product is the town that you live in and work in. You know, it's your road network, your infrastructure, the parks maintenance, and then any services that we might provide through that, the transfer station, the wastewater plant, what have you. And I think that overall the town, especially right now, looks absolutely beautiful. You know, we're benefiting from the fact that it's not snowing.
Yeah.
So the crews are doing extra work or additional work that we might not necessarily get to, you know, at that time. When I was talking to Mose today, I said, you know, it's a wonder why southern states always look really, really nice is because you get 12 months worth of work. You're not cleaning up for 4
It's
months,
true.
right?
It's true.
You know, and then having you actually
That's
working for
true.
4 months and then cleaning it all up and then trying to get everything good for 6 months. So but you know, in the end, we thank you for your, you know, your contribution to our product. Without you, we wouldn't necessarily be as successful at all. So we thank you very much. So with that, we our budget stands right now at 12.5 million. It's up $971,000. I'm in an area where I've never been before, so a little uncomfortable, to be honest. I said that to the Board of Selectmen as well. We're at an 8.39% or $971,000. Last year we were at 6.3. That was inflation driven. In 22, we were 4.4. In 21, we were minus 1.2. And then from there, it went 3s and 2s all the way back to 10, which was a -4. And then in 9, it was a minus, and in 8, it was a minus. So overall, on the average, you'll see, you know, going forward that we actually kind of stay with inflation. Specifically, if you look at that bold red line, that's the inflation line, and that's the highway department, our main, our biggest department. And parks, if you look at parks as well, parks is the light blue in the middle there. They basically both trend with inflation over across the past 10, 14 years. So
Good part.
it's actually,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
it gives us, while we're having a spike right now, I think hopefully in the next coming years, it'll start to level back out again. And if we look at the numbers for the highway department compared to inflation, like we did last year, they're almost identical. You know, we're off by a couple $1,000s. We're actually less than inflation by a couple $1,000s. So if I look at the breakdown overall of our departments, salaries right now are at 49% of our total. It's actually down 3% from last year, and we were down probably 3% from the year before. So we're actually seeing a shift in what exactly we're spending our money on. Is we're not even spending our money mostly on what we'll consider our capital, which is our manpower. But as everything starts to trend, and we look at you know, the cost of living and things that are going up as far as materials and stuff. John mentioned 27% on his chemicals, or 24% on his chemicals. The wastewater plant was at 27%. So you see the exact same thing, you know, so he, you know, we're buying chlorine, we're buying other things at the wastewater plant, but we're seeing the exact same problem where numbers are going up.
Hey, Tiger,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Are you going to discuss sewer fund today?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
'Cause that
Yeah,
was
it's all part of it.
flat.
What?
You had flat on the revenue, I think.
Probably,
We should talk about that. then,
Yes.
'cause that's a big increase on the expense side, right?
yes. So
Okay,
we
all
were
right.
gonna-
No, I don't
yeah.
mean to blow you off course. That
Yeah,
I just,
Bob
it
and I
just
spoke
occurred to
about
me. but
that.
let's
Bob and I
talk
spoke about that after the Board of Selectmen meeting about
Yep.
trying to make up start to make up that differential, because we're starting to bleed the maintenance reserve
Right,
down, and
yeah.
I don't want to bleed it down as much as we're bleeding it
good.
down.
Okay,
So yeah, that is the thought, to start to make up that difference. So
Yep.
when we get there, and then when we get to the rate setting at that point in time, when we do the calculation for sewer fees, we can come back and tell you exactly where we think we're
Yep.
going to be,
yeah.
and
okay.
how, and what the strategy might be going
That's
forward.
not tonight,
That
not for that
the
part.
rate one is,
Yeah, that's May.
next, yeah, April, May, June.
April, May. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
So maybe
The-
we do need to go up a
if
half
the
percent or
budget's-
1%
Yeah,
or something.
budget tonight, we see how we are, and
That's-
then
got
we can determine what, you know,
Okay.
what kind of strategy you want to have going forward to try to level that out, so we don't bleed that down
And
to.
we asked you for a sewer plan and some other things at our last WPCA
Right.
meeting. You thought you could cover that initial work with
Yes,
what you have.
right. So
Okay.
we had monies in the sewer budget that's still been carried over on a capital line of $25,000.
Yeah. okay.
That's what we had targeted in the engineering budget for fiscal 24 for the
Mhm.
sewer study.
Mhm.
It just has to be, right now, it's shown as a plant study, not a sewer
Mhm.
study, right?
Okay.
You know, so if we have it reclassed to,
No.
or you allow it to be used as a sewer study, we can go out right
Okay.
now and find an engineering firm. You know, I was going to discuss that when we got to wastewater side, you know, happy to do it now.
No, no,
That-
let's keep going on your,
that would-
you
that would be
go,
the
go at your
thought.
pace. I didn't mean.
That would reduce the engineering budget by 25K if we did that sewer study now. So the proposed budget from engineering would drop by 25.
Okay.
But then would outside contractors go up?
Excuse me?
Outside contracts will go up because, right, aren't you moving it from one category to the other? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Do you
that makes
need
sense.
outside do you need contractors or consultants or something for the?
Yeah, I would. So
Okay.
I would be hiring a consultant for that, but that it's in outside contractors in the engineering budget.
I see.
Sorry,
Which is
I'm
another-
misunderstood.
yeah.
The, so I,
Different.
you know,
Right,
it's that,
okay.
it's under, they need that line. I could drop that line by 25,000 and utilize the sewer monies that we have right now.
Got it.
And that is a thought for us to go forward. But then overall, if you look, we're at about 95% that we consider to be non-discretionary. So, you know, there's some things that you might consider to be discretionary. At one point in time, a number of years ago, the Board of Selectmen decided to remove outside contractors, our garbage hauling on Sundays, and said, don't collect garbage on Sunday. They did it in April and on a Friday, and then on Monday, they said, they
Pick up
took the
the garbage.
$10,000 out of the budget on a Friday, and on Monday, they said, start doing it again, and we lost $10,000 in our budget because of the complaints that we got on one weekend's worth of downtown garbage sitting. So a lot of times when you consider it to be the discretionary thing, it's depending upon who you talk to. You know, the majority of the places that we touch, you know, we touch every single resident in various ways throughout the day, and everything seems to be a sacred cow
Right.
to them. Yeah. As far as our operating budgets on the administration side, it's a $336,000. It's up $16,000. And it's a simple, small adjustment in our salary line. I increased my overtime by $1,000 to cover my admin, and I increased our outside contractors line based upon what we see as far as work. So right now, I spent the last $740 in my outside contractors line. I had $743.12 left. I spent $740. I got $3.12 left, and I'm in February. So that's
For the rest of the year, that's all you got?
That's what I got for in administration. I got a little bit left in engineering, and then we start to worry about the last part of the season as far as, and that's a lot of things where residents come in with a request, or we're looking at kicking off projects, certain information that we might need to gather. We necessarily need that money. So I increased that, I bumped that line by $10,000 to make up for the fact that each year we've been struggling in the April, May, June phase. Any questions on admin? Sorry. Yeah. Was moving a little fast. Any questions on the administration side?
Nope.
Thank you. On the engineering side, it's $393,000. I have an asterisk next to it because I made an error in my budgeting. I actually zeroed out a line item for professional services, which I should not have done. I thought it was part of the salary lines, and didn't recognize it until we were at the Board of Selectmen level. But I tracked for the past fiscal years that we had available from 23 back to 17, and I've used all the budget for every single time. It's our weather service, to be perfectly honest with you. It's our weather service and some other consultants that we hire on a professional basis for the work. So I'd like to have that added back in. That would
What's
change
that dollar amount? I'm sorry.
Huh?
What's the difference? What should you leave out? How much?
$9,000 in professional services.
Okay.
It will change the percentage. It's a small budget. It changes the percentage from 9.29 to 11%. But
Your weather service?
it's a weather, so we have a weather service that we utilize. That weather service pays for itself in and of itself. It's the same weather service that Shea Stadium has, I think it's a couple of others, Sports Field, City Field, everything up along the northeast coast.
So
we call-
basically telling you like partly cloudy, chance of
we call
rain.
in, we have a specialized meteorologist that speaks to us directly about our area. And then if he can hold me and not have our guys come in for 4 hours or 6 hours, and I save 6 hours of overtime on double time, that pays for itself in and of itself. So it's an excellent service. And they're usually very spot on with everything that we're looking at.
Actually, what do the outside contractors do in engineering and public works? Because I see you're taking up the engineering outside contractors up as well.
Right, so that varies. There is, we need monies to basically kick off some projects. So a lot of that goes into survey work, goes into wetland flagging, depending upon where we're working in what area of town, what parcel that we're working on, things of that nature. Some of it is design for small projects that we might have that we need a little bit of extra help, traffic studies, things of that nature. So that it's considered an outside contractor, but it's really more on the lines of professional services.
And you don't have anybody internal that?
I have a
that
town
kind of work?
engineer who's swamped,
Uh-huh.
we have a staff of 3, me and we used to have 5, we've got 4, and we've had 4 for a number of years now. And Maria's flat out with land use and being supported by Joe. And then right now I've got the police department. Joe's our project manager for the police department, and several other one of our large bridges reconstruction, and a couple of other projects. So he's quite busy on that. So we don't have that. And then some of it on a traffic study basis, we would want a traffic engineer, a specific traffic engineer, or if I'm hiring a specific structural engineer to take a look at something, those are the kind of, we're hiring a specific engineering base. We can review their reports and understand their reports, but we want someone with the direct knowledge to go out and look at certain things for us.
So correct,
Sure.
we take kind of a different approach, right? Because aren't other towns have more engineers on staff?
Yeah.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so is the approach here that, for these specialized things, it may be more efficient to hire the traffic?
Correct.
Is that, do you have enough engineering staff?
I knew you were gonna ask me that question. So
Okay, sorry.
I've had multiple meetings with my staff, my admin and engineering staff, and we have an excellent group.
Mhm.
And we don't want to disturb the mix, but I've said to them that I'm getting to the point where I can't sustain the effort. So, I was said to, I'm willing to go one more year, and then we'll see how it goes again. But I think that we were at 5 before.
Right.
And we've been at 4 since I took office. We were actually 3 when I took office, and then went to 4 when I hired Maria. And I'd like to get back to 5, but I'm willing to, wait and see. I'd like to see how the 830Gs play out, see how the rest of it plays out. And if I get
Sure.
some of Maria's time back, that would be better, because we were humming along pretty well before those came in,
Mm.
before the land use kind of
Mhm.
popped. So I'll see, but it's a strain at present. So that's
Yeah,
why-
in the police building committee, that sucks up a lot of Joe's time.
Yes,
yeah.
it's almost a full-time position.
Yeah,
to
it's
be
a lot.
honest with you right now. And we have one bridge that's out to bid right now. So he was working through that design portion, and then he's working on every others. He's got probably another dozen projects that he's working on in various pieces, as they're going forward.
Mhm.
So, he's my go-to guy as far as if I have a small project I need to do, like putting in the EV out here, you think that would be easy to put in 2 chargers back here to get $20,000 from Eversource to put in 2 chargers. Took a year, and it took a lot of time and effort. So all that kind of plays in. But
We also had Mike Pastor 2 days.
I did,
And
yeah, and I
that's,
lost Mike as
that,
well.
but that's another way to cut this that would, if he'd ever consider it, but we've done it all sorts of ways, and the service contracts work in terms of the specialty. But I don't think they add up to 2 people on a day by day. They can't. I mean.
Not
it's-
2, but I'd
No,
like to get back
no,
to the 1.
one would,
Right
yeah.
now, what we're lacking is a little bit of field staff.
That's right.
Meaning, I used to have a guy out 24 hours, 24/7. That was his job. He was out in the town, looking at everything that was going on. That's the one portion that we're lacking at present. We're making up for it in other ways, but that's the one area that I think we need a little bit more help on. But we're looking at that.
It's an intense
And I'm
time.
deferring to my staff. They don't want to, while they look forward to having somebody, we're worried that if we have a misfire or mishire, then it ruins the symmetry that we have. So I'm willing to stay with it.
Is that contract service for one particular project?
No, that's multiple projects.
You'll consume those hours, no problem. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, I got you. Okay. Because I mean, that's really the whole increase in the engineering.
Yes, exactly. But no, I could consume those in
Yep. Gotcha.
within the next 2 weeks.
So Tiger, the request here of 33,480 includes the $9,000.
Does not.
It's not.
No, it would
so-
be right. So that
so it's
percent
41.
42,000. Yeah, it would increase the percentage change to 11.2, I think it was overall. So it would drop, bring the operating to 402. Any other questions on engineering? No? Okay. Town buildings. Town buildings is a $1,427,000. It's a $204,000 increase year over year, 16.67%. But inside that, embedded in that is inside our service contracts is the property maintenance or the property management for 220 Elm Street, which is running us at about $12,000 a month. It's about $144,000. So I take that $144,000 increase that we have to our side of the line out, it drops the ask to 4.6%, which brings it a lot more in line with where we should be. That $144,000 is actually in the BOE budget. They will be paying us and then we'll be paying the property manager. So we'll be at a net zero on the town side and the BOE is already accounted for the expense on theirs. I just have to account for the expense here. There's a change in the rental side or the revenue side for us, but it washes for the buildings. I don't know if you have any other questions on
No, it's
town
fine,
buildings
yeah.
per se.
Yeah.
The only thing I'll note, and John mentioned it in his, is at present, we're keeping all of our utilities at 10% because we don't have an idea right now. We have an idea, but when we're working towards it, we're looking at right now at purchasing gasoline because gasoline is at the perfect time to buy, is in the winter months. And then to look again to get back into a cycle for in the summer months to buy our fuel oil for the year. Our electrical contract expires at the end of this year. So we are good through the end of this year. We just got some very favorable numbers to purchase electricity out for the next 2 years after that. Keeping the favorability that we have for this last cycle, 6 months of fiscal 24, and then a very favorable number going forward for 2 years out. So once we finalize that, we'll be bringing that, forward. But that's the thought, is to then purchase electricity out,
What are you assuming in this budget for an increase?
in this budget, we're assuming the 10% right now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think you'll beat
I
that.
think we'll do better than that.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
And the gas seems to be okay. Diesel is the only one fuel oil we don't know. So we're at a loss. at present.
Gas is like at a low. ultimate.
It's at a low, right?
Really?
Right now is at a perfect time to buy. So, and normally we've always bought in this time frame, in the December, January time frame for the year.
Okay.
So it's always gone over 2 fiscal years for us, but it's the perfect time to
Mhm.
buy. And when we speak to Kevin, we can give him some favorable numbers, and at that point in time, purchase for the year.
Mhm.
So we're purchasing for the remainder of this year and then the coming forward. And I think we'll be hitting the number that we said that we needed for the increase for this year.
So what do you do from a revised, maybe this is a Josh question. So they're getting new bids. Bids will be coming in, data will be coming in. They've got placeholders for now. Actual will be March, April. When will you know on utilities and
We'll
gas?
know for gas within the next couple of weeks. Electricity, we should know within the next week.
Oh, well, then we
Then-
can.
Oh, so we
okay.
can
So
ratchet it
whatever.
We'll know
Okay.
Fuel oil and
Sure.
diesel, fuel oil and diesel, we won't know because that's a summertime
Okay.
purchase. And
Well, you have a placeholder for that.
I
So
have a placeholder for that.
Could be
Yeah,
a
and
favorable
and
variance.
gas, the exact same thing. We're talking,
Okay.
we're speaking to a broker for natural gas as well to see if there's an avenue for us to purchase at least our supply side, not the distribution, but the supply side for it, similar to electricity.
Okay, so can we have that as a follow-up for us when we meet in the end of
Okay.
February or even March, I guess, when we move it to the town council, we should have a list of all those things that could change.
The only thing is we can't move the number up for the town council.
Right. You would have to make that
No,
decision prior.
but we will have time to do that. I mean, given his parameters, we'll be fine.
They can't
before-
increase the budget, so we'd have, if
Before we
it
do
went the other way, we would have to have that as you passed it.
Well, we would only have it, change it if you give us the number, right? I mean, it's not going to change
right.
again. If we have the final number in 2 weeks, that's the deal, I think, right?
That's
Okay.
fine.
So he says.
But alternatively, if it comes in later,
Yeah,
if we
right.
flag this with town
We
council.
clean it up with in May.
That's
Yeah,
right.
Well, it goes
But town
down,
could
yeah.
would have the option to say, oh, let's put the real number in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Right?
true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just because that's just what it is,
Yep.
And this
Okay.
stuff that you don't have, you'll keep it 10%.
We're gonna keep it, right,
Which
we're gonna
makes
keep it as
sense.
that number only because we
Who knows?
don't, right. And we use that number just to flag it for the board.
So same thing for Board of Ed, because they had the same assumptions, right?
Right.
So if you lock this in, it's gonna, yeah, it's gonna
Right.
cascade throughout the entire budget.
Yep.
Correct. Correct.
Did
Yeah,
they-
so if we don't have it by the time we voted in, we can
Yeah.
flag it and then it could be updated when town council.
Did they budget 10% for Board of
I
Ed too?
don't
I'm,
know what-
I'm trying to
think they did.
remember. I'll have to go back and
Yeah.
look. Was it 10 also? Well,
Okay.
hopefully,
So
yeah.
can I just say, so the 10% is kind of a plug number.
Just a plug
because you
number.
Didn't know.
Right.
When the unknowables, where there's this category of electricity, gas, whatever.
Mm.
If the unknowables are limited to just diesel and heating oil, is 10% still good?
Well, we'll look at that as well to see, but we thought we would be fine at that number.
Mhm.
But, you know, because the diesel spiked, but then it seemed to,
Yeah.
it's coming back down again.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So we think we'll be fine, but we'll look at that as well to give you
Okay.
an overall look at that time, you know, so if that number had stated to go to 12 and a half, we would let you know that that number needs to move a little.
Right, because it's a smaller number because it's a single category, but
Correct.
the 10% might not be a good percent.
Correct. Thank you. Any other questions on town buildings?
Yeah, just one question about the
Sure.
light poles. Are
Light
you,
poles.
is that,
So
are you moving everything to LED? What's that maintenance about?
So the light poles are the decorative lamp posts. The street lights themselves, the overhead lights that are along all the roads in town, except for the downtown area, we actually rent or lease from Eversource Gas. Eversource Electric, I'm sorry. There's a fee plus, and it includes maintenance, repair, and the electricity for all those lights. There's 408 of those in town. The decorative lights are the ones that are in the town buildings budget. Those are the ones that are along Main Street, Elm Street, Forest, Locust. And that's strictly, we've changed over to LED already, so that you would have looked at that's a savings on the electrical side for us. Because they're all on separate meters as far as it goes. We have 3 meters in town for those. And then, but those are actually for knockdowns and repair. You know, unfortunately, we get probably 3 to 4 strikes a year, easy. And
Like somebody backs into them?
somebody backs into them, somebody hits them with, mostly, usually with a delivery truck. Sometimes we're able to find them, sometimes we're not. So, and it's $5,000 to $6,000 to buy, $1,000 to put it back up again. So they're quite expensive. When we got into the prospect originally, they were around $1,500 to buy, and now they've just, over the past couple of years, they've spiked. So now
But now
they're,
that we have all those CCTV, can't we just?
we are,
Who's taking?
we've been
that?
able to find some, we've been able to track them down and chase them down. The problem is if it's early morning and you don't get a license plate out of it, you know, sometimes we can read the side of the truck, and the police department does a very nice job of tracking everyone down. But it's still, you know, we have some strikes and we have some that just, the whole program started in 2001, I believe. So they're 20+ years old. So if you look at them, they're starting to, you know, and they get somewhat abused, you know, the aluminum starts to get pitted and rotted out at the bottom over time. So, but that's strictly just repair, not a replacement, you know, not a replacement schedule at present. You know, we're replacing as is or as needed.
Just out of curiosity, do the Eversource lights use LED or they?
Yes, we changed, we had them change over in 2 phases, 2 years, probably 5-6 years ago, they changed over. We did a small stretch along South Avenue to see if anyone noticed. No one noticed. Then we did another big swath, and then they took the rest of it, and we gave them free rein to change the rest of them to LED. So we're on LED now.
We thought that was so god awful expensive. I can't even believe those discussions. It was at the time. It was a lot. Now, it's-
Any other questions on town buildings? No.
Hmm.
The highway department is 3.75 million. It's up $372,000 or 11% from last year. But there's a little glitches inside. So it's an 11% change. What we lost was we lost our railroad offset line. We were offsetting costs to the railroad for $80,000, $80,000 a year. And because of COVID, our railroad fund is depleted. So we're not able to take, we have to utilize the money for the station and repairs at the station. So any monies that were being allocated to the highway department and the parks department, 67 for the highway, 8,200 for the parks, we're not able to allocate. So we lost that money. So you see a $67,000 hit. And then our de-icing products this year went up by $75,000. They had been over the past 3-4 years trending downward. Every year bidding from the same companies, the same quantities, the same people bidding, the same municipalities, and then the number was going down, the unit price was going down. And this year there was a correction to the tune of around $75,000. So I had to add that back in, assuming that that's going to be the new normal. We're able, thankfully, this year we're able to absorb it because we're having a nice winter so far, knock on wood, but we were, that was definitely tapping our road maintenance line in the highway department. We don't have a storm line. We don't have a storm maintenance budget. It's just was in our road maintenance, and we were going to take a hit on road maintenance by about 70 grand for the year. But we seem to be doing okay right now. So I had to offset that. And then I had a slight uptick in our outside contractors and mobile repairs. And then also one of the things on the salary line is the fact that we went through our contract, and the contract got approved post budget. So we had to then, if you look at the difference between what was approved versus what was revised, there's about a $70,000 difference between our approved budget and the revised budget to make up the difference in the fact of what they were getting. We didn't carry any numbers. We had to carry the number forward. So in that regard, there's some mathematics in there as well, that this is from approved budget to approved budget. But if I go from approved budget to revised budget, we do a much better.
When did the get approved contract?
Huh?
When did it get approved?
It was last year, but it was, by the time it got settled, it was post budget cycle. So the numbers were after the budget cycle.
Okay.
That's the 7% increase? Is that what you're talking about?
That's correct. So it's, inside that,
147.
there's a 60, if you look at the fiscal 23 revised to the fiscal 23 approved, there's a $68,000 change in salaries. But
Which is
our
contractual.
analysis right here is approved to approved, not approved to revise, right? So that's the problem. So you take $68,000 off of that 372, and I'm at 304.
Yeah.
You take the railroad offset line off at 67, and I start to come down to just a normal reflection of what their salary increase would be, which should have been about $80,000, $75,000 to $80,000. We just got caught in the mathematics somewhat.
So Tiger, on the
Sure.
road maintenance,
Yes.
so there's, does that include salt and includes other de-icers or?
It's our treated salt. We use a small amount of untreated salt. Majority of it is for the Parks Department. For areas where people are tracking into the buildings.
Sure.
And then we have a de-icing product that we use that we actually, it's a liquid that it's basically a juice the material and make it a little burn rate a little bit higher and able to burn off a little bit more snow. So that liquid product, it actually, its unit price pretty much stayed constant through this time. But the treated salt product, had a market increase.
I mean, do we have like salt in storage? So if we're not using it this year, because it looks like a mild winter, maybe we
She'll
can.
be fine for next year.
Yeah, it should be fine for next
Right.
year,
Yeah,
right?
it's not going to go anywhere. It's just going to sit in the shed or inside the
So hopefully we can
incinerator.
realize some savings from not using it this
We
year,
might.
carry it over.
You don't know.
You never know,
I can't
but
predict the
yeah.
weather, so
Okay.
if hopefully you're right, James. If
Uh-huh.
hopefully that's the case, right? Whereby we're going to end with a full shed,
Yeah,
and then not necessarily have to expend any money at the end of this year to make the shed full, and then we're going into with a full shed. We'll
Yeah.
see what happens.
Right.
So but
Mhm.
I can't determine that right
Mhm.
now.
sure.
Any other questions on the highway? Yeah, transfer station is 1.76 million. It's up $61,000 or 3.5%. There's again, adjustment in the salary line because the same union. And then we have a $30,000 increase in our garbage hauling. Our garbage hauling contract will end mid-year, and then it'll start again. We'll go through one increase, and then we'll look to see exactly how it's going to go going forward. We had a 5-year contract. We'll probably bring that down to a 2 to 3 year contract. 5-year contract sometimes works, sometimes it doesn't. The majority of the municipalities around us are going to a 2 to 3 year time frame. What we did do this year on the Board of Selectmen level is we increased our tipping fee $5 a ton. So right now, we're paying $94.50 to haul it out of the transfer station. We are charging now $100 to bring it into the transfer station. So there's a $5.50 change or offset there that helps bring down some of the overhead. You just don't necessarily see it's because it's on the revenue side. So we're trying to stay, like one jump ahead a little bit, and we're in a very good sweet spot with our neighbors as far as where we are, as far as what we're charging for our tipping versus others. Some are below us, some are above us. We're right along the average of where we are for the municipalities around us. So the thought is to stay right there. And next year, when we get a new contract in, we'll look to then adjust the fee accordingly. The only thing we can't offset is the residents coming in who have a sticker, right? So they're basically, we're paying $94.50 for it to leave. We're not necessarily charging them the same rate to come in. We're paying $75 for people who do not have a hauler, and $45 for people who have a hauler. And the thought is that at some point in time, we're gonna have to make an adjustment there.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if the cost of disposal is higher, are we going to?
We've been talking
ask-
about
ask
that.
people
Yeah.
who use the service to,
Some of our
lower.
neighbors are higher,
Yeah.
Darien is much higher. Some of our residents or some of our neighbors are lower. But yeah, if you look at the average household refuse is 1.5 tons. So if you just use 90, it's $135 for us to service that resident. We're charging them 75. So there's should be a little bit of an adjustment in there, and we'll look towards
Well, wouldn't
that.
we raise it at least the amount you're asking for? 3 or 4%?
We could, I can go back to the selectmen
That'd
and
be the
say
way to look
exactly
at it.
that.
Yep.
I
And
mean-
say that, that there was a recommendation from the board that
Yeah.
we stick with whatever the increase is from the station, we actually look at that. We would still definitely be lower than our
Yeah.
peers, our
Yeah.
peer group.
The town's subsidizing the effort,
That's correct.
but why make it continue to make it worse? I mean, you would think that you would.
This is making it work.
$75, you go up it's $80. It's $5 more. And these are the reason,
right.
We can bring that back and
I-
ask them
I-
that.
I
and,
think we should look at that.
for the next cycle of stickers as it comes forward, we could do that.
Yeah, and for people who have their trash picked up, we've all seen it increased, right?
Yeah.
They've had fuel surcharges and stuff like that.
COVID, China, supply chain. I mean, you got to use all the excuses, right? I mean,
But it's just more expensive. I mean, so the rest, people who aren't,
what is the increase? You have any idea?
um,
Is it who?
mine went
what is
up,
there picked up?
I think mine went up like 15 to 20%.
Yeah, it was about 20%.
Does that sound about right? Like it was like 15, to 16%.
We should like 40 to 50.
Yeah, it's not-
It's 20%.
Right.
40 to 50 a month?
Yeah.
And these guys were getting
A month.
crushed by the diesel because they're diesel trucks.
Bring it to the
It's
transfer
super
station,
expensive.
$75 a year,
45 a
which is
year.
what the Lavieri family does.
45.
$75. I'm willing to pay 80.
Well, make them pay 80.
I'm happy to pay 80.
You know, way up,
Right? Board of Finance.
way up.
Oh, yeah.
Again, it's
Anyway,
down.
I think we should recommend that.
That's
Yep, I
fine.
do
The
agree.
I
increase
can
should
bring
be
that back to the
commensurate with the
selectmen and say-
increase in costs.
That's fine.
3%. It's not a big
What
deal.
about the two new programs, composting and swap shop? Has that impacted expenses at all?
Little early to see on the swap shop. The composting, right now, we're still running at a deficit, a negative to that, but it's very close. We're averaging just over 1,000 pounds a week. Need to get to about 1,500. If we get to 1,500, that's our break even point. And we're every time we bring into the swap shop, we'll actually start helping people a little bit more. And we're trying to bring out the idea of utilization of the transfer station. We just did a video. I just did a video with one of the girls from Planet New Canaan from their youth group. Touring the transfer station is everything that we offer. And one of the places we highlighted was composting. So we'll see. And like I said, that break even point is around 1,500 pounds a week. If we do that, we're good. The swap shop itself, difficult to tell right now. That's going to come down to our debris side, our construction debris, and our bulky waste kind of deal. So at that point, we'll see, but it's a little early, but all things told right now, the majority of the things are going into the swap shop and leaving, and very little is coming out of the swap shop and going to the station itself. We would have taken it anyways, but the interim, there's not much turnover from what I'm gathering as far as things that they're having to throw away that are, say, on the shelf too long, right? It's been here 3 weeks, nobody's gotten it. They'll try to make room for something else. A lot of that stuff is not necessarily making it back to the station. It's winding up back into the town somewhere. So I think it's been a very good program. We haven't had any, we haven't had any problems or any complaints. I can see them going to probably, if they can get more volunteers, going to more time. Right now it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can see them going to increased hours. I believe that it's actually going to come to the point where we're going to suffer from everyone wanting to use it. Let's put it that
Yeah,
way.
I
During our busy
think
months, when we
that's
start putting compost out and it's springtime, it's going to get really busy at the station on a Saturday. So
What are the current hours?
9 to 1, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And there's pretty much ample parking right there. We asked the volunteers to park elsewhere. Like I said, we haven't had much, we haven't had people bringing, things that they shouldn't. We haven't had people, very modest, or dumping things after hours, so to speak. We haven't had any of those problems yet, which is a good thing. So we'll see. I'm excited about it. I think it's I'm happy to see it.
It's
I
great.
I volunteered at the swap shop,
Yep.
and I actually made a mistake because we said we weren't gonna take her big desk or chest of drawers. And then she goes, "What do I do with it?" And I said, "Dump it over there." The guys were like, "Don't tell the people to dump it with, there." So
They have a little, it's that's about the only thing is when directions given, that's about, but it's fine.
Your fee is going way up.
candy away.
Any questions on the transfer station?
You want to take his candy back?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
How many times you run the shred day?
We try to do it twice a year.
Mhm.
So right now, Donnie's looking at the contract right now as to when he's going to go, and we try to do it once in the spring and once in the fall.
Yeah.
But we try to give ample notice on that.
Is that
That-
well utilized?
It is well utilized. That and the household hazardous waste day, that's run out of the wastewater budget, but that both are actually very well utilized. I think we were the only town during COVID that actually had a household hazardous waste day. We were the only one who ran it. And that year we ran 2 shred days, and those were the exact same thing. The line was out
Long line.
out to Main Street. If you were there, then
Yes,
you know.
it was a long
So,
line.
everyone was cleaning out and I think it's a very good program.
Yeah, thanks.
No problem. Any questions? Any further? So the next is Parks Maintenance. It's at 2.186 million. It's up just $99,000 from last year, or 4.78%. We have the same issue on the salary line and the railroad offset line. And then the same issue that we were speaking about from a chemical basis and things of that nature. Outside contractor line and outside grass treatments. John, correct me if it was 40% for grass and 20%.
About 40%.
Oh, jeez.
And the fertilizer, and it was up to 20%.
Almost about 90%.
So that we're
Well,
we're having that.
A salary line from approved to revised actually went down.
That's an adjustment for John's salary, and as he moves, as he transitions over,
Oh, I see.
the
So without that, you would have had an increase.
yeah, I think we would have had it. I didn't analyze it that deeply, but yes. I'd have to say off the top of my head, yes.
Okay.
And then we did add one line, a Bristow maintenance line for $12,000 a year. It was actually in the Conservation Commission budget. We felt it was probably better served to be in the Parks Maintenance budget. It was a request from the Conservation Commission, but given the fact that we'll be spending $500,000 over the past 5 years we felt that an increase of $12,000 specifically slated for Bristow,
Yeah,
for
that's a good
additional
idea.
work at Bristow.
That's good.
Maintenance wise is money well spent to try to keep it where it is.
Is that people time or is that
It's both.
materials? Or
It's both. It's materials and our staff time will be in there as well. So it's mostly materials for that because our staff time will be included. But then if we need to hire an outside contractor to help us, but it's trimming back the trails, little augmentation on the trails, a little bit extra material and things of that
Mhm.
nature and some additional work. But I don't know if you've seen Bristow lately, but it looks fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
The
That's terrific.
we have a pavilion on order. We just paid the last deposit on it, so it should be here in late February, March time frame. It'll be right in the center of all the trail system, right where the crossing is, the main crossing of the stream crossing. It'll be right there. It'll be a nice gathering place. And then there's another nice overlook that we just built up above. And then they had volunteers come in and build a bird blind. So there's a nice
Yeah,
bird
that's-
blind that's
yeah.
that there as well. So it's actually taking shape, and I think it's September 8th of next year is the
Mhm.
2024 is the time frame for the actual 100th year anniversary. So that's a celebration date, but we'll invite you at that point in time.
Tiger, are we, what are we using for grass treatments? Outside people, our own people?
Those are
The seed,
outside
the
people.
fertilizer, it's still all outside?
Completely all outside, because some of the seeding we do in-house and. we buy
Spot
it from-
seeding, yeah.
We hire an outside company. That we buy. We're
And-
controlling what's going
And,
down.
and what's going down? We're definitely, okay, good, 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 good. All right.
Anything else on the park side? Right, so the next is the nature center. This is strictly for the utilities for the nature center itself. I kept it at the 10% only because we'll have to see exactly how that fares, and as we get closer, we can adjust those numbers accordingly. But it's a $7,000 increase, and it's strictly for electricity, fuel, oil, and water.
Yeah.
That's where it stands at present. Any questions on the nature center? The next is town utilities. This is our hydrant service, the town's fee for our sewer use, and our streetlights that we spoke about before. Our hydrant service is we pay a per linear foot basis, a per inch per linear foot basis for the pipe that's in the ground, because it has to be a certain size to carry the water for Aquarian, and then we pay a fee for every hydrant that we have in town. I kept them at 5% every year. The utilities are asking anywhere from 8 to 10% increase. They're given a 3% increase, so I split the baby and put it at 5%. That's really that's how I came to that number. We will get a letter from Aquarian shortly telling us what the number will be, but typically it always comes in after the budget's been baked, and then we're stuck. If it comes in earlier and I can analyze it and say exactly what it'll be, we'll change the number to reflect. Do we have any questions on that at all? The only good thing is that everything that they have in the ground, they pay taxes on. So just so everybody's aware, they actually pay a tax coming back to us. So while we pay a fee going out, there's a tax coming back that SEBI and Roe collect. So
Tax coming back for what?
it comes back for every linear foot of pipe that they have in the ground is assessed and taxed. Same thing with gas main. It's the exact
Yeah.
same thing. So Eversource Gas is paying us a tax coming back, so while we're paying for the hydrant service to actually utilize it, somewhere in there is actually, the taxes coming back to the town for the personal property.
Any idea how that nets out? Just
I have
curious.
the number. I have the numbers in the back of my head, and
That's fine.
I don't want to bring it forward, but I'll find out what.
I'm just curious.
I
Yeah,
have the number for Eversource Gas. I don't have the number for Aquarian, but I'll ask Sebi and we'll see exactly what that net is.
that's
See
interesting.
whether or not we're making money or we're not making money. I would assume we wouldn't be making.
I don't think
money.
we're making, but
No,
it might be
even
picking
if
up a
you
chunk of
break
it.
even, Yeah.
I'll ask Sebi what he collects from Aquarian. Eversource Gas, we don't necessarily, we're it's just a collection at this point. So since we don't, we don't pay a fee for that apart from our gas usage. Any questions on town utilities? No.
So
All right, best budget right here.
Reward.
Zero. So last year we had a nice increase in the tree service budget
Yeah. it was
of
no change.
$95,000. And I wanted to go a year to see exactly how we would fare, knowing that we were short of a bid or two at the end of the year. So I didn't want to hit an increase on an increase, especially since it was a market increase, and we appreciate that. So I left them flat for the year. We'll see. Right now, we're trending quite well.
Gonna ask you about that. We've only.
Well, one of the issues, to be quite honest, is that he's been out on medical leave for
Yeah,
about a
that's-
month, so necessarily we haven't had any bids coming out, but we've been trending. The numbers have been good as far as their bid numbers. And the amount of work that's out there, we seem to be doing quite well on, but I can't say that it's all because of we're doing that. Some of it's got to do with the fact that. we
Hey,
haven't put it
Josh,
out.
what is this year to date through? Is it through December? We only spent 26,000 on that line item of 150 through December. So we've only spent 26,000 on 150,000 for
That's
the
on-
maintenance.
On maintenance, yeah, well, that comes into play coming into the spring, because then we get into a spring
Yeah.
spraying program, pruning, things of that nature.
Okay.
So the majority of what you would be looking at now would have been takedowns in the highway department or takedowns in the parks. And we've done quite well. I mean, we've had some storms, but not a lot of mess at present for the storms that we had. Wastewater plant. Wastewater plant is at 1.511 million. It's up 150,000 from last year. It's an 11% increase. The major drivers, one, again, the salary lines slightly, and then we have an increase in our outside sludge hauling contract to $23,000.
What page are
That's-
you on?
So this goes to 33 and
Sorry.
34 in the budget book. So what's the contingency 151 negative?
Josh, that's yours.
To keep it as a balance.
So that money's coming from,
If it's on the,
on page 35, it's that negative 151. Because it zeroes out your budget. It zeroes out his operating budget.
that's
So-
their, the balance.
So
Or if it's on the expense side, it's,
well, it zeroes you out. You don't really have 150,000 increase, it's actually zero. But I want to understand where that 151 comes from. I'm assuming it gets a transfer from the fund balance. What is the fund balance now? 3.5 million or something?
this year's. If we were gonna use all of it, but I don't think we're using all of it.
We're talking about two different things, I think.
Right. And normally I think that was always just to zero it out, one for.
Does that literally happen? We do transfer that from the fund balance
It's not a
to
transfer.
operating?
No, it's not really a transfer. It's a number in there to keep the budget itself balanced as a zero change in the budget, but it's not really a transfer actually. It's-
Why do we do it if we don't actually transfer? How do we, why does it?
provides
Don't
some
just
more
go-
room if we need to transfer some budget to other line items without coming for an increase in overall budget.
Right.
I don't know. I'm not
If you
sure.
needed a
Can you
little bit
give
of
us
money in
an
one line
example,
versus
some-
another, we're able to transfer out of
Yeah.
that depending
Like,
out of that contingency line. Since it's a fund in itself, I think that's why they built in a contingency inside it, since it's its own fund.
Well, the budget is actually 243. That's the recommended amount. And it's $150,000 less.
Correct.
And I think what you're just saying is that it happens to coincidentally be exactly what the increase was.
Pretty close.
It got reduced to zero out the expense. I just don't know how that, how do you, from where?
If you look at it, pretty much all of the other small funds, the pool,
mhm.
so on, they all have a revenue line that is general fund contribution or
Mm-hmm,
rather fund,
mm-hmm.
and expense line, that's. So when the.
We just reduced the contingency. We budgeted for it and we just reduced it. That's all we did. I guess that's all we did is we reduced the amount we're budgeting for contingency. And it happens to be the expense amount, or we did that intentionally, that amount.
I think they balance each other out.
Okay, all right. Okay.
What kind of items have we transferred in that?
So it's
You-
not, it's not a.
No, it's not really that. We budget a contingency amount of money. We've
Yeah, we
budgeted
netted that.
3,895, then now they're asking for a contingency amount of money of 243,000, which is $150,000 less than last year, which does eliminate the increase above. So it is zero.
So it is,
I don't know
yeah.
how it's not zero then, if that's the
So-
budget.
Well, because that's the whole fund versus just the plant itself. I think,
No,
right?
no,
No?
that's not what some of the P and L says. It says
Okay,
you have 150,000 of increases, fine, we'll talk about that. But then you have a decrease in the amount you need for contingency, where that was just a contingency line item amount of money, a budgeted bucket of money for contingency, and it's just 150,000 less. So year over year, it's a zero increase across the whole budget, not $150,000 increase. Okay,
It's
Mhm.
depending on if it's on the revenue side or the expense side, it's either saying that money is getting put towards the fund balance or being taken out.
I don't think it's a fund balance issue.
No,
I think it's just simply a budgeted line item for contingency.
Yeah, you're just budgeting less for contingency.
We're just budgeting less, which is fine. I mean, that's
Right.
okay.
So your line item request is only 28, you know.
$2,800.
Yes,
That's actually, that's the
$2,800
increase.
101. It's not the 11%.
Yeah,
because you've
let's-
Offset it by this.
By reducing.
contingency reduction.
By reducing your contingency.
Yeah,
I
that's a
don't have a
weird-
problem with that. I just, it's a little,
It's a
it's
little.
okay, but we
strange.
just make sure that that's clear to Tiger because he's asking for 150,000 increase and it isn't, it's zero. Okay,
But
I do have a question
Good
about,
for
you have
you.
150,000 less in your contingency budget.
Correct. We don't normally tap that. You've been very good on.
it's still
Not-
$250,000,
It's still
you know,
money.
it's still a decent
we-
amount of down.
Historically, Jim's done a very good job and Nick
Yeah.
now.
Well,
Okay.
yeah, that's still a lot of, that's still a lot of money.
It's still, I mean, so now two questions. One is the increase in the operations where our revenue is flat. The sewer fund tax collector is 1,627 this year, and you're proposing 1,627 next year. Again, maybe good enough for now, but I think we got to talk about why wouldn't that go up 1% or something?
We think it should be probably higher, but yeah.
Yes, okay,
yeah,
all right.
Only because
Right?
when you're looking at, the
Your
maintenance
costs are going-
items,
Yeah.
like we talked about,
Yeah.
we don't want to make that fund balance disappear. We've
Right.
done a very good job of building it.
Yeah.
So when we get to the point of setting the fee, we'll have to see exactly what
Okay,
that would change, how that would change the sewer use fee to the average user.
1%.
Or, yeah.
What is the fund? Do we know what the fund balance is for the sewer? Usually it was 3 million dollars or some
I
amount.
think it's million now since that for the last year,
1.2 million.
1.2 million capital projects.
Okay. Okay.
That's the point, is that if we hit
Okay.
it again for another 8 and then, the plant's older, so we get, and
Sure.
so this year we've got, it's on the capital side, but it's we got $500,000 for the half of the INI study. Next year, I'm gonna have another $500,000. So that was the thought of trying to then increase the sewer fees to make up for it. Other municipalities do the exact same thing, where
Yep.
they've actually got, plant repairs inside their sewer use
Yep.
fee.
Yep.
So it
Sure.
pays back the capital.
Yep.
When was
And-
the last time we increased it?
We increased it last year, but a very nominal amount.
I thought it
Um,
was
2 years
very
into
little,
this
very
Tiny.
little.
Tiny. And do you know what
We
other
actually,
towns?
I think I don't know if we came down to one, it was last year a consolidation or, we had just 1 year out of consolidation.
Right.
And then we said, we're gonna take a pause and then take a
Right.
look. We might consolidate again,
Right.
try to come to one number per se, but I think we'll have to make an
Yeah,
adjustment.
that's fair.
What is the,
That's-
two questions. So is the money in the fund making any money? So I think Ann would say yes. That's now earning 4%. At
Right.
$2 million, which is really important. It's $80,000, right, of income,
Yeah.
Tiger. That it goes right back into the fund.
Right.
That's one good thing. The other was,
Comparative.
the comparative to other towns. What are other towns increasing their water and sewer?
We'll have to look and see.
Be good to know that.
Yeah, we'll do another analysis going forward. I know that in my town, I have a sewer use fee and it increases by about $15 to $20 a year, every year regardless. So, and actually this year was a $25 fee, went from $420 to $445. So.
So
and that's-
5%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's standard across the board. That's for any dwelling unit. It doesn't matter the size. It's what, bless you.
Wow.
So any dwelling unit, $445.
Well,
Yeah.
you run a great
Yeah.
system and we'd like to have lower increases for our town, right? For the residents,
Absolutely.
but it shouldn't be zero if these A, the costs are going up, B, everybody else is going up 5 or 6, nothing wrong going up
We're
1 or
trying to
2.
replenish.
And we have to replenish the.
We'll
Good.
do another
Okay.
analysis,
People
that'll
understand
be
that.
part of
I
it,
mean,
It's a service.
It's been a long time.
Good service.
Learning, but they.
It's
they
low
get it.
expensive than everybody else. I think it was a lot lower.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good.
I'm good.
Okay, any other questions on sewer?
No.
All right,
Good
so
job.
now to the fun stuff. Our capital request is 12.3 million up 2.6 million or 27% from 23, fiscal 23. What's not reflected in here are two large numbers, 27.5 million for the police department and $5 million for the training facility. The only reason that they're not reflected in here is because it would just spike it we didn't spike it for the town hall. We didn't spike it for others. So we try to take the large driver out. We leave the bridges in, but we take the large driver out, the one off the 20 to 50 year expense. So that's not reflected in here. But I can walk you through each budget. So on the engineering side, it's
we're going to talk about those two items later or no?
well, you can ask questions, but yeah, when I get to buildings, we'll talk a little bit.
What are the drivers here?
So on the administration and engineering, I have our payment management program. I just rounded it to 2.5 million. It is a 2.438. I added back the $62,000 only, to get us back to where we were normally, and $60,000 is about a cul-de-sac. I added in a marker for ADA improvements townwide for $500,000. Only because it was very difficult to try to manage across different departments and different avenues of the town to say exactly what we're going to have to require from the Department of Justice when we're done with our negotiation, I guess would be the best way to describe it. So this will cover anything from buying benches that are ADA compliant in the park, say, or to other improvements that might be, we have a sidewalk that's out of level, things of that nature. That aren't included in other projects. We're trying to bake everything that they want into existing projects that we have, but anything that's outside of that, I put in a number. And I feel that this number can change and can change downward markedly. I just don't know yet. So when I get done with that, that's going to be in the March, April range.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be to the point where we say we're going to be on a 2-year time frame or a 3-year time frame for improvements, and that not have the monies in the budget for that year to go and do it, and then have to come back for a special appropriation. So that's why I put this marker in.
And Tiger, that's I know that you're in discussions, that'll be fleshing out the issues at Waveney and with the recent instruction that they came back and said some things weren't right.
A lot of it's interpretation.
I get it.
To be perfectly honest with you, it's a lot of it's interpretation. There was 109 items, 63 of them were dealing with signage. So, and it was that this sign is 58 inches and it should be 60 inches off the ground. So some are of that nature, some are much more market, some were, we want you to have a ramp leading from the back patio of Waveney down to the grass. Whoa,
Right.
So at that point, I say, oh, wait a minute, because if we want to keep it and make it look like Waveney, that's why I put this $500,000 in, because that's $500,000 all day long, right? So the thought is to say, okay, is that program, do we need to make that program, or is there another way to make that program compliant at that point in time? So those are the things that will be fleshed out over the next couple of months.
Tiger, did I hear correctly that there was like a different type of handicap graphic that the state used versus the federal, and that's another thing we got dinged on?
Yeah. So there's Blue Bob.
Can't make
which
this
is-
up.
Blue Bob is the standard symbol where you're in the chair and you're sitting upright. The state, the governor came forward with the mobility symbol, which is, so that it's a wheelchair, but it's leaning forward and it looks like it's a mobility symbol, meaning that, you're empowered, empowering the disabled. The Department of Justice only accepts Blue Bob. However, the Connecticut Building Code only accepts the state.
You can make it up.
Your state
make it
tax
up.
dollars.
So
are
which,
worth-
So
Bureaucrats having a great.
we're gonna get we're asking for a waiver
Seriously.
for it, but technically they can't provide us a building. We could not get a C of O on a building without actually having the state mobility symbol. The moment we put the state mobility symbol up, we are in non-compliance or non-conformance with the DOJ, the federal law. So we're asking for a waiver. But yes, we had several instances of that.
Should have tried keeping.
How insane is that?
Blue Bob next to Leaning Larry, put them together on the same side.
Well, no, because then we thought about that, actually
It's
having
allowed.
two signs, but you can only have one sign, so you can't.
See?
So I did think about that, just doing both and saying, well, I'm good now, but no, you can only have one sign.
we had the congressman here 8 hours ago. We missed an
Good.
opportunity to,
So.
gosh,
I think it's a state issue, no?
well, the federal's the federal. I mean, I hear you, but I mean, he sort of his job too.
Well, so just as you go through this, Tiger, because there's, a lot of projects here
Sure.
and, there's always an issue about how much you can conceivably get done in the course of a
There's
year.
bandwidth.
Yeah,
yes.
and so, and while these numbers are very helpful for us to understand what the price tag is or what you think they are for each thing, if you could, where it's appropriate, point out where perhaps you might only need to budget part of that price tag this year if it doesn't seem like it's
Some of them are-
realistic that
yeah,
it's
some of
all
them
going to get
bring
done.
to your attention and
Yeah.
some I could say, listen, I think I can move a year off on this, but to bring it to your attention, the traffic signal replacement, right?
Yeah.
A traffic signal replacement, our traffic signals are 20+ years old.
Yeah.
They're gonna go, right?
Right.
So the thought is to bring it to your attention, say, I gotta start designing for the replacement.
Right.
I've got money in this year for the design, then money for the replacement. Could it necessarily go a year? Yeah, I could push it all a year and say, okay, take that $150,000 that I had slated
Right.
and move it out a year. I've got 50,000 that, that right now on an
Yeah,
initiative.
and we don't, we're not going to substitute our judgment for yours. You're going to be in the best position to tell us which ones are sort of more appropriate for that kind of thinking and some
Right.
which that makes no sense. But just something for us to think about as we sharpen our
Right.
pencils.
And we're also looking at, just so you know, in here as well, we're looking at grants,
Yep.
specific grants that will fall into play for this, that we might not necessarily need the monies for. That, well,
Right.
but I have to have the money
You have
money
to have it
budgeted because,
appropriated, right.
right, or else I can't go and do it, right? I don't have permission to do the project without the appropriation. I don't use the appropriation because I get the grant and the appropriation goes back.
Perfect.
Well, and along those lines, so there's the prioritization,
Yeah.
which gotta have and, could have, whatever. Then there's the unspent money that's been budgeted. We have,
That's an analysis that Ann and I are.
yeah, we haven't gone through that in a
Right.
while. It's
That's,
time.
yeah, I talked to Ann about that today and
Yep.
we'll be looking at all of our projects in the past.
Mhm.
And we actually have some savings, even just on the bridge side. The state took over the design for the design of the bridge that we had, the Ponus culvert, right? We didn't have to spend that money.
Mhm.
So, there's savings there. That kind of thing
You
is,
forget that.
those are
We've got
that-
unspent.
those are market numbers,
Yeah.
so Ann and I'll go through that analysis and then there'll be a pocket of money coming back that were unspent, projects that have been completed that are unspent funds that hopefully can offset some of these. But I have, again, our pavement preservation line, that's our crack sealing and our localized repair, probably one of our best products that we do, one of the best projects that we do. And last year we had monies in for engineering for our bridges under 20. So we had $75,000 for the design and put $250,000 in for the maintenance of those bridges going forward. It's one of our, I won't call it a weakness, but it's one of the areas we haven't focused on. It's an area that we need to focus on. We can't necessarily see them all. They're all small, right? So you have to go out there and actually take a look. It's not like driving underneath a bridge or over a bridge. You have a very good opportunity to see everything. These are all are ones where you actually have to go out and make a concerted effort to look at every single one. So this is an area where we need to look at. Our large bridges are in excellent condition. This is an area that we need to look at. Then I
Tiger,
have-
is that 250, is that just the engineering or
No,
is,
that's
and
the
is it-
construction side.
Yeah.
The engineering was 75, the construction's about 250. I have it at about $10,000 to $12,000 per location. I've got about 20 locations.
Okay.
So
And
that's.
why
about
did
it.
the state pay for the 75 for the West Road?
It wasn't West Road, that was a bonus.
Oh, it was-
They came forward with a new, it used to be where it was a 80-20 split with the state, 80 from the feds,
Right.
20 from the state, from the
Yeah.
town. And the state came forward and said, well, they felt that they were better positioned to manage the design on their side with,
Huh.
because you had to go through their design process anyways. So why not have their design engineers manage the design? They hired an outside contractor instead of paying us the 80% back for the town to manage. They decided to then just manage it in-house and pay the contractor directly, pay the engineer directly. Therefore, it doesn't cut the town out because we're at the table because it's our bridge, but we don't necessarily have to go through the process of hiring the consultant
Right.
and then getting our money back to pay the consultant from the state. The state just hired the consultant directly.
Are they still doing that or is it?
They're doing,
fun-
that was the West Road, Ponus Ridge was the first bridge that we actually utilized that program. Yeah.
And which is the next one? And
Next one, the only one we have on slated in the out years is nursery, but
Yeah.
nursery right now, its efficiency rating is very good. Very
Alright.
like a 96 efficiency rating. So while it's been in play for a decade, and we're just eventually it'll come where we're gonna have to put it forward, but it was part of the first list of bridges that we got from the state. So we kept it on the list and we've just kept it pushing it out, and keeping it in the out years. So there's no reason.
and
to
there's
bring it
no
forward yet.
80/20 anymore.
That's an 80/20 bridge, but
That
there's no
one,
reason to
yeah.
do that bridge right now.
Yeah.
There's no reason to spend that money on the bridge because the bridge is good.
Yeah,
Once the
good.
bridge isn't good anymore, then that fund should still be there. And then it'd still be eligible and we could get the money then. Then I have $300,000 for parking lot improvements. $500,000 for sidewalk improvements. That's a 300-200 split theoretically, but now post-COVID, there are a lot of requests or asks for sidewalk repair and installation. Went to the library today, it was absolutely fantastic. And I got stopped before I went in about the sidewalk. And then I went to the library later on after work to sit there and phone up for the budget, and I
No
got
good.
stopped again
No good.
about a sidewalk. So interestingly enough, so we had 500 a couple of years ago. I went 300 for a year or two, then like to jump back to the 500 and then go back down again. But I can give you a better analysis as to where we want to slate that money. In the PCI or the sidewalk condition index for those sidewalks themselves. Then I have $200,000 for traffic signal replacement. 50,000 of that is for putting in audible pedestrian signals, accessible pedestrian signals in town. That got approved by the police commission a couple of months ago. It's under design at present. And for the 7 locations in the downtown area and 1 on Farm and South, we'll put in an audible signal so that someone with low vision can locate the signal and then cross safely. It's something that needs to be done anyways as far as ADA requirements, but it's an initiative that was brought forward by the community impact officer and the schools. So we'd like to move forward with that.
Does that only operate during school hours?
No, it has to operate all the time because
All
you
the
can't
time.
function between it, but you can set the audible signal to stop it, like say 12 feet away, right? So it wouldn't affect the local property owner.
That was my question.
And then it changes in its intensity and a little bit in pitch during the crossing. So at night, if no one presses the button for it to cross, it'll just emit the low beep, the locator beep, not necessarily the crossing beep. If someone did cross at 2 a.m., it would increase a little bit, but it would only be for that crossing time.
Hey, Tucker, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
what we have on the capital here, as this is small, but the sidewalk improvement line that we have says 300 and that's.
I had 300 originally, and then I looked and saw that it was 5, so I put it to 5. But I had the
I
same
just see, I see
question.
3 on
I had the same question at the
on
board of
our-
selectmen level.
deck.
This was the final draft, though. I emailed everybody.
500 because my number is 500. I got asked that question at the board of selectmen
Ours
level at
is
the exact
3.
same time because I had the slide at 300 and the sheet at 500, and I looked right before here and it was 500, so I changed
Well,
because my request was 500.
Well, like we said.
So
we
your
have to-
request is 5.
Okay.
Yes, at present.
I'm
And I
just
have-
looking this up.
And
I
so the
didn't check.
total request for this admin engineering capital is,
4.985.
Sidewalk.
Well, plus 200, unless this adds up wrong.
right, unless this adds up wrong.
Oh, if
This
it adds
page
up,
says
okay.
it's 4985, but it's
something
only
like that.
300 for
Yeah,
sidewalk.
'cause
I think.
I added up, I added, yeah.
So I think you're at 5.1.
5185. Yeah. It's going the wrong way.
All right. Do you want to go to,
You tell me.
yeah, I think we can go.
Traffic calming, rotary.
That traffic count is right here. Excellent question. So this is at the intersection of Park Street and Old Stanford Road.
Yeah, this is a good one.
What we're trying to do is put in an island to slow traffic coming into downtown. So you have people that are traveling 40, 45 miles per hour at best on Old Stanford Road. making the turn onto Park Street and they're carrying their speed. So the other day I did it just as another test, just to see exactly, just drive it and then look down. So I was driving between 40 and 45 on Old Stanford. I made the turn onto Park Street. It was wide open. There was no cars. There was nothing. And by the time I hit the intersection of Mead Park, I was in the 30+ range, 33, 35. And I was cognizant of the fact that I was actually testing myself. So I was actually trying to slow down, but a normal person would be carrying 35 miles per hour straight through the park. And then you're into the condos and into downtown. So the thought is to put in an island at this intersection to then 90 up the intersection and cause you to slow and then turn and then have to then accelerate. And at that point in time, when you're accelerating towards the park, you then theoretically would be slower, right? You wouldn't accelerate to the 45, you'd accelerate to somewhere between 30 and 35, around 32, which is our average speed for the majority of the roads like this. And what this also has is a series of pedestrian improvements, because now we have a sidewalk that ends on Bank Street at Whitney. There's no way to get across the street.
Right.
And then there's no way to get across the street over to
That's a
Park
great
Street
idea.
to then bring people to the park or to Bristol, what have you. So it's a comprehensive look of a pedestrian and a
Yeah, because
traffic
you
calming
can't get to
initiative.
Bristol from there, you have to walk on the road.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the
So-
thought is,
Yeah, all right, so that sort of makes sense now. The intersection of
That makes a lot of sense.
Silver Mine and Carter. Which
got an
is
email about that yesterday or over the weekend.
problems. It seems to me that would lend itself to a rotary, because everybody would have to yield, and there's plenty of room there to put in a rotary.
We actually had our Michael Galante, our traffic engineer, outside contractor. We had him take a look at it, and it's very difficult because of the driveways that are there, the couple of legs. The rotary gets a little bit difficult for the resident that's on Canoe Hill coming down the hill. The last one on the left-hand side to get his driveway, and then the resident that's on Carter Street, the last one on the right to get his driveway into the mix of that. But we did look at that. We looked at a four-way stop. We looked at a traffic signal. State doesn't want a traffic signal. State doesn't want a four-way stop. State doesn't want to stop 106 at all. So we are looking at,
That's why rotary would work, because everybody has to yield to the guy on the rotary,
right. But it is a,
and they work in Greenwich.
I'll share the sketch with everyone, but I don't disagree. It was just the way the geometry is working there, given the fact that they're both skewed, right? And 106 comes in on a skew. They work great if they're on a 90, everything's on a 90, they're not. And then the extra driveways make it a little bit more problematic to get the people into the rotary and then out.
You want to be on the Public Works liaison? Is that what you're telling me?
The one in Greenwich, at the bottom of Lake Street,
Oh,
is
that
skewed
one's
too.
Crazy.
There, yes, we are looking at one in a different area in town at Conrad and Whiffletree. It's a smaller one, but the exact same thing. We have a little bit of an issue with one driveway, but for the exact same reason, and that would be a traffic calming initiative because people are shooting instead of coming up.
Because
Okay, let's go.
another hair raising experience at the corner there one day, so.
I had a resident contact me over the weekend for the exact same reason.
Why don't we put a speed trap on Park Street right near Old Stanford Road?
I'll ask the police department, but
They'll be here Thursday.
Right, you can
Let's
ask-
keep
you can
going.
ask- you can
All
ask
right, let's
them.
go to town. Let's go to town buildings, unless anybody else has any other
All right.
questions on this page.
Tiger, one question on that. Isn't Old Stanford Road a state road too? Isn't that 106 a state road? So doesn't the state have some say on whether there's a traffic circle there?
Absolutely.
That's why
So
I said
yes,
no.
they have yes, it's a state road. We've already discussed this with them. It's already gone through one set of iteration with them, and they were in favor of it, but it still would have to go through a final iteration and tweaking from them. But yes, we would need a road encroachment permit. We would need their permission since a good portion of it is in there right away. It's an excellent.
Okay. So they're in favor of a circle in one place, but not in another place in town.
Well, this is at Park Street. It's not a circle. It's just an island. So it's
Okay.
not rotary. So it's our road that's being split. It's not their road. Yeah.
Okay.
So to beat a dead horse,
Sure.
so if you, that is really abnormally wide Canoe Hill. If you kind of brought it so it's not, so it kind of comes out more diagonal closer to that home on the end. So it forces people coming from Carter to make Because that's how most of us who live there do it. We make a right to make the left.
Mhm.
That's exactly, well,
Mhm.
that's the plan, was actually to then offset the intersection, right? To
Yeah.
then provide a queue length in the middle, one car queue length in the middle, right? So you would come to Carter. If you were traveling northbound on Carter and got to 106, it would be to the left of the intersection. You would then turn right to then now you're facing oncoming traffic and then make a left-hand turn.
Right.
That is the thought. We are talking to the state about exactly how to enact that, whether to put it in striping wise, just in paint, or then actually do it in hardscape, meaning, bituminous curb
Just
and
to
things of that
move the-
nature.
yeah.
And see, but we still need their permission to do that because almost all of that work is inside there right away.
So-
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Tom's point, in terms of when you are dealing with like outside forces, in terms of who has to approve it and stuff to get it done. Just, I mean, these may be
I
great
factor that
ideas.
in. I factor that into the timing.
So that if you still, okay,
Yeah, I factor that into the timing.
can't push it up. Okay.
It's all right.
It's trying. Okay.
Yeah, the one at Park Street has actually been on our docket for a decade.
Seems like
Okay,
at
then.
least,
Got it.
yeah.
It's trying. Let's
Yeah.
try and down.
I appreciate it.
Anything else?
Nope.
Buildings.
I think buildings, and I don't think we're talking about the police station tonight. That's Thursday night.
You
Where-
mean the capital or the whole
Yeah.
project? Yeah, the whole thing, yeah.
I'll be back Thursday night,
Yeah.
so we can talk
I
Thursday
mean,
night if you want.
what do you
I
think?
mean, you can have some questions now, but I mean,
Yeah, no,
without the police here and
That's fine. No, to me, the biggest asterisk on this is the training facility in terms of what it entails in timing. And again, going to
Scope
whether it
and-
could possibly get going. So that's my,
Right, well, that's still it's a work in progress. Right now, we're it's in-house. We're
Very.
working towards that. So right now we're at the point where trying to determine best place to locate it,
Mhm.
and
That's
that
the big
includes little survey work, wetland surveying, wetland flagging, some percolation tests for septic, things of that nature. So we haven't, we're looking at a couple of different locations, but that's still an area that's developing.
yeah.
I
And
put it
also,
here,
and
I put it here
also,
only because it comes up and then I don't want somebody to say, oh, you didn't have it in last year's budget, and now you've got it in this year's budget. So I want to make sure that as it develops, I want it to be reflected so we can see it going forward.
just to kind of put all that in perspective. I think the Board of Ed asked for 5.3 million. You're looking for 12 and change together, right? Maybe 13 makes 13 to 15 makes the cut, something like that. That's not bad. 13 or 15 out of 17 across everybody. Okay. I know you're not happy, but just saying,
It's okay.
I just work with me on this.
As long as four is on Dr. Lutz's
Work-
side, he's coming off.
Right, work with me on this.
Okay.
That's 15-ish million. You throw this police station and training, you're at $45 million. I mean, it's just, we have a real, challenge in front of us. So to your
And-
point,
and-
we're gonna have to find ways
well,
to
yeah,
get
but,
the number lower and figure out how to
but,
defer.
but to be clear,
Lower
the
and
police
shared,
station,
so.
it will be funded over a couple years.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And the training
Yes.
facility, who knows when that's coming
Yep.
on and what that's taking. So
Yep.
I hear your
Yep.
point, but it's not like every time you do a big building, we don't pay for it all in 1 year. It goes over.
Oh, no. I
3 years.
appreciate
Yeah,
that.
but that's-
I've always,
that's
I
real
suggested
money
over
to-
2 or 3 fiscal years
shoot.
if we could, for sure, but we'll have to figure that out.
Here we go.
Okay.
And the
Uh,
shared facility, who is on board?
It's preliminary.
Well,
It's
that's-
so
that
preliminary.
needs
Very
to be
preliminary.
done, so-
Approve the police station, appropriate all the money for it, even if we fund it over 7 years.
Yeah,
It's a single appropriation.
I think I'm
Yeah.
thinking of the debt, the amount
Oh,
of
yeah,
dollars
yeah,
of
yeah.
debt we would actually go borrow
Oh, yeah.
and try to spread that
Win-win,
over,
yeah.
string it out as many.
Yeah, but you're right. You could sign the contract.
Yes,
without the
But
that's
appropriation.
right.
To your point, just in my budget alone, it's
Two and a half, 3 years to get it
$44.88
done.
million in
Easy,
capital.
Yeah.
I would
So
think.
I'm
Yes, it would take-
cognizant of the fact that, I know exactly what the ask is. I was like, holy cow.
Yep.
So
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's not all this year.
So
Yeah,
let's,
that's the-
let's,
No, I know,
no,
but I just
I
don't
understand.
it's still real money.
Yeah.
So let's skip police for tonight.
Okay.
The rest of these, you want to just, I don't think, if anybody has any questions on them, I don't think you need to go through each one. They're pretty
I have some questions.
sort of de minimis and pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
go ahead.
Well, if you want to run through them first. Dr.
Sure. Well, we have $500,000 for the repointing of Waveney. That's the shell of the building. To our knowledge, it's never been done. We did a portion of it when we did the roof up on top and we did a little bit around the windows, but the actual structure itself, we haven't. And on some of the sides, we're getting water infiltration coming through the building itself. which just damages the inside of the structure. So the thought is that, you know, while we understand it's a large number, it's a number that, you know, it's a big house. You know,
The building has never been repointed. That's hard to believe.
I don't know. Not in our time frame.
That's impressive on the mortar then.
Yeah, it's true.
So and then we have $250,000 for the Powerhouse Theater. That's the carryover from last year.
Okay.
That's
With the Powerhouse, I was, we had an ARPA meeting today with this and to bring people back to last year. Remember they had the whole presentation. We kind of said, nah,
Yeah.
sharpen your pencils, okay? The plan hasn't changed. Probably the cost has gone up 10%. So there's not, now you could say whether you like it or not, but this 250, the assumption is also that there's 250 from ARPA
Right.
going into it, as well as the 250 we already from a couple of years ago did for the bathrooms. So I just want to make,
100. It
what?
was 100.
Pardon me?
That was 100.
100?
Yeah.
There was a 250.
100, 110. I don't remember.
But I think we said 250 and then you said I could do more with it and do X, Y, and Z. I can,
I'll look back. I thought it
Yeah.
was 110, to be
but
honest.
the only thing I want to say is, and so kind of this ARPA subcommittee, we basically said that it's not for us to, you know, say, no, the
Right.
boards can't look at it, but I'm just giving a heads up on this, that I do remember we said to you guys, can you do a little better? And in fact, the costs went up. Potentially construction costs 10%. They're more confident on them because they're farther along in the building. So I just want to throw that out there.
Well, so all right, maybe there's someone else we can ask, but when you say, could you sharpen your pencils and the costs went up, that's because nothing has changed in the project?
In my
Other
understanding,
than the contracts are more expensive.
yeah, it's
Well,
probably a little
well,
more
what we did-
refined.
What we did was, it's more refined. What,
Yeah.
we were
Was
working
there
off
a
of
rougher
of
estimate?
an engineer's estimate.
I
We
see.
went to a contractor and said, where are we? You know, can you tell us? And we came back, it was pretty close. I mean,
Okay.
it was not bad from, you know, from where a construction estimate to a plan. There isn't much the problem with that too, is there's not much to change, you know, like there's not much, apart from putting in the bathrooms and then expanding the lobby, so to speak, there isn't much else going on in there as far as like, you know, expansion wise or what have you. It's really putting the bathrooms in.
Well, it's a big lobby expansion, correct? Which I
Yeah,
know
except
is driven by having to move the bathrooms. Mind you, we have another set of handicap bathrooms. There's one embedded and there's one right next door.
Right.
So
Correct.
I just want to raise that as people think of it, because we did as a board go, can you do a little better? And it's really the same proposal, whether that's, you know, I'm just throwing that out there to you.
Where are we on consolidating the bathrooms? Because that was real money. I mean, we're looking at all
The
these.
problem that we
different
can't have, the
structures.
problem that we have, 'cause we did look at that as well. So they just had a charrette on Friday where they brought in a design team to take a look at the overall powerhouse and see exactly what there might be room to move and what to do and things of that nature. So there was some positivity out of that. So there's actually some very good commentary and good suggestions that they'll put together. The problem that we have with the bathrooms is that the bathrooms are interior to the building. So since they're interior to the building, we can't necessarily leave them open because someone you would have free reign in and out of the house, in and out of the powerhouse at any point in time to
Right.
try to utilize that.
Right.
We have the same problem at Irwin. They're interior to the building. We tried to see if we could sequester it and get you just to the building, just to the bathrooms coming into the Irwin house. So you could use the bathrooms in the Irwin house. You know, if you were a park user, it's very difficult to because they have
Yeah, that
access to the
didn't
rest of the
work.
facility.
complicated.
We don't have anybody there. So that's the problem. And that was the reason why you actually have two sets. They happen to be close together, absolutely, but it's the reason is because one's interior to the building, we can't necessarily bring it forward. In that thought, but they are looking at it overall and seeing, you know, but
And Target, do you remember, I mean, because we just got a quick presentation and not that I'm blaming for that, the overall fix the whole campus, we'll use the word fix
Mhm.
the whole campus, that would be, they're gonna take the potting shed. We're gonna fix the outside of it, right? And
That's
roof
correct.
it, they're gonna do the interior, which was gonna be the bathrooms. And
Right.
and now we're gonna do a freestanding exterior bathroom for people at the park to access. And then there'll be the embedded ADA bathrooms within the powerhouse and then the lobby extensions. That's kind of this, you know, pavements and stuff. do you remember the overall cost of all that?
Well, so the powerhouse sits, the work at the powerhouse sits at 1 million or 1.1 million, depending on, where you're at.
Ignoring the bathrooms, ignoring the separate bathroom.
Ignoring the separate bathrooms, right? So that's just the
park
powerhouse.
bathrooms, yeah.
That's just the powerhouse project itself, say that the main body of the building. To put the annex, it's not freestanding, it's actually, be built off of the walls of the existing powerhouse. To build that and renovate the potting shed, we had $250,000 for that of ARPA money combined. It was 150 for the bathrooms and 110 for the building, trying to jam that down to 250.
Yeah, that was because you decided to do the separate bathrooms in the, so
Yes.
we initially did the 250 for the bathrooms. And then you said, I can make this work better and fix the exterior of the potting shed and
Correct.
give it to those guys to use.
Correct.
Right. So that's 250 right there. Okay, right?
That's
That's
correct.
ARPA
So
money.
it's plus
They're asking for another 250 of ARPA money just for the theater. Right? And then they're asking for 250 from the town. So that's 750. And the overall costs,
It's 1 plus 2.
1.2. So they're
Well,
coming up with, I think, $500,000. Is that
Well, the
correct?
overall cost isn't 1.2 because you're only looking at 1.2 for the structure. You still got to add 250 for the bathrooms and then whether or not you consider that, as the landlord, we're responsible for that potting shed, right? So I'm responsible for that
Right.
$100,000 for that potting shed, regardless of if it's given to them for use or not, or to stay for the town, that 110.
Or leave it like it is and we haven't done anything with it and then we have no expense. I mean, it's not like it's free, right, to fix this,
No, but
Not saying it's
it's
a
also,
bad
I
idea,
gotta,
it's just what it
I have a
costs.
building that's sitting there, that floor fell in, right?
Mhm.
And then eventually it's gonna have other structural problems with it if we don't do something with it. So, and it's a really nice structure that you don't want to necessarily
That's
lose,
It's
so.
pretty.
Oh,
So
no,
the
it's-
overall thought is
it's
that I
lovely.
consider that 110 almost separate. It's like building maintenance. But you would be looking at, even if I included it in, it was 1.2 for the powerhouse theater and 250 so it's about 1.4,
Right.
1.45 of that. It was 750 from the town and then the rest from the players, right? So that's really where you're at. If you look at it, 1.1 plus 250, so you say 1.35. And we were looking at 750, so we're a little bit heavy on the 50-50 split, 600 to 750.
Yeah.
Without the bathroom in the potting shed.
Without the bathroom in the potting shed,
So
but
that's-
bathrooms in the annex. So you'd get your bathrooms, in the annex, you would get your bathrooms in the potting shed, in the powerhouse. And then they would have the use of the potting shed for a black box
Yeah,
theater.
but all over fixing this whole thing, the all-in cost is about 1.5, right?
Yeah.
And mostly it's gonna mostly benefit, the powerhouse in the space. Except for the bathrooms for Waveney, right? And so the split is kind of, they're looking at 2/3, 1/3 for all in. I just think, just to put in perspective, it's just, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying, we talked about this last year and the exact same proposals coming forward, just so we know.
Yeah, okay. And you're saying the 250, when you say 2/3, 1/3, it's $1 million from the town, 500 from
Yep.
ARPA plus. Or
And-
two
I think
ARPAs.
it's,
No, it's
It's
like 500, they're gonna raise
one-
we're
500.
gonna raise 500 and we're giving,
Yeah.
we were giving.
So
them
ARPA's in the town's million?
Yeah, the ARPA, yeah.
Oh, so it's
Well,
750
no,
plus
it's
250.
it's $500,000 ARPA money,
Hasn't all the
Yeah.
ARPA money been allocated?
Half of it has, right?
250.
It has,
Okay,
right?
so you're right. It's $1.5 million for the campus from multiple sources of
Right,
funding.
which
Okay.
is primarily benefiting the power, it's pretty and it's
Absolutely.
our
It
buildings and
is, yeah.
stuff. So I just think, because we had said, can you, and I guess the answer is no, they don't feel they can do it any differently.
Well, they don't want to design a different building. That's why.
What?
It's about, they don't want to design a different building. It's the
It's-
same product.
Right.
Yeah,
So-
exactly. Just so we know.
And
Are you optimistic there's going to be some consolidation or
No.
some savings in this new consultants?
Maybe, yeah.
just
It's a
maybe.
different way to look at the building and a different way to look at the usage, and there might be at that point, but it's a little premature.
Well,
They've also applied for a good to great grant.
Right.
Maximum of $500,000, and the Board of Selectmen approved that application for that
Concurred.
grant. So there's hope that
Yeah.
get some funding from that as well.
Well,
Excellent.
does that go against the town's contribution or?
It's a mixture,
they
but
can.
more, it's going to help them enhance the inside, new lighting.
The grant,
So
yeah, the
that's
grant itself
different.
is for an
It's
is
adding
interior
more to the
renovation, not exterior
renovation.
renovation.
Okay.
They're working every.
Oh, well, you have to. No, I get
Right.
that,
That's
but
good.
still.
Okay.
And how many of those grants have been given to more affluent towns?
Don't know that.
That's the key. That's.
The
what
grant
you
doesn't
look
come out
at.
every year, so
Yeah.
it's difficult to determine.
Oh, yeah, but still, I mean, even with Gores, that was like, we couldn't believe it came through, really. All right.
Okay, so that's a powerhouse. We have $250,000 for the Irwin barn. This is for structural repair to support the roof structure. We have monies in the budget for the roof itself. When the engineer came out to look at it and the contractor came out to look at, there's spacing inside the beams that are excessive, and there's excessive weight from the roof onto this structure. We have to beef up the structure in order to then put the roof back on. So we're looking at $250,000. That's pretty much a firm number from the contractor itself.
So the total cost for fixing the roof,
It's about $500,000.
$500,000. So I mean, look at Irwin's pretty, right? But we did the windows, was that like 200 or something last year? I mean, so I'm just saying, it's a barn. And
It's an expensive
it's a lot of money for a storage building.
That was
It-
my question is what are we using it for?
At
Storage.
present, it's storage.
And if we had a purpose and if somebody were to contribute, I mean, where would all the storage go?
That I don't know.
Well,
We're-
that's,
we're
that's
very
the
light
real
on
issue going
storage, to be
forward.
quite honest. We have a lot of stuff that's stored outside. And a lot of items should necessarily be stored inside. You
I
know, we
know.
don't necessarily have a lot of covered storage, things like this, you
Mm-hmm.
know, like this barn.
Actually, that would be a really good place for the summer program, maybe.
Talked about that years ago.
Should be.
Yeah.
Which one? You want the house? or the barn?
Then you'd have to renovate the whole inside. It's a barn. It's a barn.
It's a summer camp.
Rustic.
It's
Well,
a
it can't
real,
can't be a summer camp in storage, right? You'd have to-
it's an expensive undertaking to
that's-
redo.
There's a
it
rule of thumb.
inside or out.
The rule of
Or
thumb,
out.
keep the sharp blades of the
Yeah.
mowers away from the kids is usually a pretty good.
What's in there now, Tiger? I remember
God.
years and years ago, we looked at remember we went through all the buildings and we looked at stuff and it was just full of garbage.
Oh, it got cleaned out.
Well,
Got cleaned out.
But then now what do we refill it up? I mean.
No, we just recently cleaned it out.
Yeah.
It looks fantastic on the inside.
And is it
Parks
stuff,
Department did a
you
nice
guys,
job.
it's like the parks,
so.
your
Yeah,
stuff.
Parks Department did a nice job of cleaning it out with Anna Krolikowski. They did a nice job of taking a
she's
fresh look at everything and seeing exactly what we needed, what we didn't need.
Mhm.
We had things in there that
But
we had been storing for,
Ever.
you know, for future use. You know, the mantle at Vine Cottage, you know, we still had the mantle from when we changed it over. So at that point in time, it's okay. The mantle doesn't need to be here after 20 years. Things. of that nature.
Just 2 cents on that, on Irwin, like we did at Waveney. We said, you know what? We need a plan.
Mhm.
Until we have a plan, what are we doing? Throwing this money around. We got a plan. We have a coordinator. We've got revenue for what? I mean, it's now is really starting to make sense to
Mhm.
spend money smartly, whether it's required ADA or whether it's nice to have. Got it. I don't know what the plan is for Irwin. These
No.
2 buildings are sinkholes for money
Yeah.
with, I can not really feeling like there's a plan. And so I'm not your fault, but we've got to have a plan. So these are your asks. I think we got it. I think we have to say to ourselves, what do we want to do with this building, the house and the barn? And if we want to turn them into something, okay, in temporary space or a camp or whatever the case may be, I think got it, but we shouldn't be spending this kind of money without a plan.
No, there needs to be a purpose.
Yeah.
So,
But we've said that.
The
forever.
main house, which number is it? 200 or 250?
200
Okay, you have 200 in your slide and 250 in your
and
budget.
it's 250. I'm sorry. I just saw it on here. Here it comes.
The barn's 250, the house is
The house is
250.
Yeah,
250.
the house-
Is it
Okay.
really? Huh.
Yeah, okay.
But the house was,
Well, the house is basically you've got paint the house. We need a new generator, some roof repair, some miscellaneous work, all totaled at 250. So I paint for 33,000, design services to try to see what we're gonna utilize the inside for 14K, a new generator at 40, roof repairs at 40, and then miscellaneous repairs at 120. The thought is that, to then gather it so we
It
can have
was
actually a
either-
tenant.
2 budgets ago or last budget, there was a $400,000 item in there to redo, and we all kind of said no. And
Mm,
we did. We said no.
Yeah,
We said no.
unanimously.
There's no
We
plan.
said, no, we don't want to be housing nonprofits and stuff like that. And it was like, it's a house.
there's
So
no-
I'm
there's
with
no
Todd. I
revenue
think
from
there
that.
has to be a very thought out plan before we drop money into a 1960s house that we kind of don't really have big need for.
Okay.
Next.
We have the Audubon House at $200,000. This was tabled last year. It's a request from the Nature Center itself to reutilize and repurpose the Audubon House. They're feeling that they can gain about $50,000 or so in revenue by increasing their camps and increasing the pre-K offerings that they have. In discussions with them, I felt that the only way that it should go forward is the fact of if they took that $50,000 of increased revenue and put it back into the physical plan. If they actually would help us in the physical plant nature of the Nature Center itself, then it would necessarily pay for itself over time. There are a not-for-profit, they don't necessarily, the money doesn't go elsewhere, it stays inside the organization. But if they would, utilize a certain portion of that increased revenue to then help offset some of the costs that we have for carrying the property, I think would be a win on both sides.
This is again,
It's amazing.
the building that used to be the laundry room, the laundry
The
building.
laundry room was the Audubon House. It was owned by the Audubon House. It was a laundry room.
Right.
And now it's been sitting vacant,
Right.
So the thought is that they have a very large request for, 4s and 3s. This is an area that they can actually utilize 2 classrooms and then use it after school and then during the summer. And they felt that all in that I thought the number last time was $57,000 a year in increased revenue. If that increased revenue comes back to the physical plant of the property, I think that it's, pays for itself in 4 years.
That's for 2, it's for camp and 2 increase of classes.
Oh, the 57,000 has to cover cost of instructors, teachers, somebody, right?
That's net. That's what I
Oh, the
understood that.
57's net. Oh,
That's what I
geez.
Wow.
Okay, that's a whole different kettle of fish.
And actually, that is a need, right? So we have
Yeah.
a lot of,
Yeah.
we know that there's going to be an
Why not
increase
do-
in
just do a loan?
population in the school.
Or what happened? Did they ever apply for ARPA funds for that or? Because St. A's did and they have
Oh.
a similar, that didn't happen or it's not happening?
That's not
Okay.
happening. No.
What did they apply for? I thought they applied for something.
They didn't apply
They
for this
just-
building. They applied for it. They didn't apply for this building.
Who's doing the
Oh.
kind of the economics on this? I mean,
Yeah,
I think
we-
a-
we've
That
seen the
came
presentation.
from Bill Flynn. So I
He
can
should
actually ask. Bill
come
to-
in and
yeah.
talk.
I should come see us because I mean, maybe there's a loan, maybe there's a private partner, public partnership, maybe.
He was
there's-
willing to come tonight. It was just, I said, Bill.
Yeah, it's okay.
we'll
All
wait,
right.
you know.
Have him, before he comes, have him prepare the info so we can see it ahead of time, like his projections, income statement and,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking the detailed one, but why?
You're right. It meets a need. It's
Mhm.
the
for
the age group, the demographic. It's not a lot of money to
Right.
meet the need, but again,
Plus it pays itself back.
and if that's the way it has to be looked at, so it just alone, let's go.
Better than Irwin.
How much would it cost to
Certainly
demolish
easier to analyze.
Irwin Park Barn, the main house or the Audubon
Yes,
house?
well.
I don't know if I have the strength for that.
Exactly.
We can, I can give you a number, the,
Is it less than 250,000?
to
Yes.
knock them down.
Yeah.
Well, it depends upon which one. The barn, I don't know, or the main house. The Audubon house it would not be that much money to
No.
knock down.
But the Audubon House has a purpose. I mean, that's the
Mm.
difference. It has a purpose. It has a
Yeah.
need. It has a revenue generating idea that could
In the right place.
I kind of get that. It's in a perfect location.
Yeah, it's in a great location for, families dropping off kids
I
and so
thought
on.
that-
I kind of get.
I thought they'd have been tabled and they were refocusing on what to do with the greenhouse and perhaps within
They
the.
still are. They're
Perhaps,
looking
but
at,
perhaps within the greenhouse, you could incorporate some of this classroom stuff. I was really under the impression that this was like, no, we're gonna focus on the greenhouse, but
no, this is.
I had a
just-
conversation with someone at length about that.
I I'll be at their board meeting on Thursday. I'll ask them that question, but last meeting I had with them about they are looking to, utilize the greenhouse and, and possibly bring it back to its.
Yeah,
prior
no, it's a
glory, right?
big
You actually
purpose.
use it as a greenhouse, right? So, but no, to the best of my knowledge, just in this,
Let's have Bill come in.
Yeah.
Let's hear more about
definitely.
this one. On Irwin, we just need a plan and we'll have to figure out who's going to put together some kind of
Okay.
usage plan.
the
before
only
we-
other large item I have is it's called the old incinerator building, but we have two incinerators. One houses animal control that was built in
Mhm.
1950. It's still there. And eventually I'm gonna need a roof and do something with it. And we postponed the roof at 87,000, postponed the windows, postponed everything, and I've got an animal control building inside of a structure that it could probably have a better use. And then I've got the incinerator building next to it, which is built in 1970 and decommissioned at the end of 1990. When we capped the landfill, we're under order to do it. That sits partially over the top of the highway department. But it's a 1970s built structure, sitting over the top of one of our, one of our facilities. And eventually we're gonna have to do something with that building to pull it off and knock it down. The engineering on it alone, just estimating what the overall cost would be to do the work, is $325,000. That's 10% of the work that we think would be necessary in order to knock it down.
Oh, my goodness.
The reason I bring it up is because it's been sitting there, I've been here
Forever.
20 years and it's been sitting there for 20 years. I capped the landfill as my first job here was to cap the landfill and build the transfer station, right? And build the
Yeah.
highway department underneath it. So, and the fact that it's there and eventually we're going to run into problems with the building. And the fact that, our salt is stored inside of it, but it's not a salt dome, right? It's the only salt dome in the country that we're in the state you can't drive into. You have to pull the salt out to load a truck. And probably that area is probably an acre or more of land that we could get back to use for a salt shed, for a better animal control facility, a swap shop, whatever it might be. If I could get the land back, the only way to get the land back is to knock the buildings down.
And store,
that's-
could be, you could put something for storage. If you could maybe
Exactly.
roof storage.
Like, right. So we did take a look at the rest of the facility as far as where I could put a salt storage facility on the rest of the facility on the capped landfill. And the costs there are saying anywhere from $600,000 to $750,000 additional monies just to put the salt shed there because of the liner, because of what we have to do structurally. So I consider that to be kind of a sunk cost, whereas $750,000 I spent over here to put the salt shed here. Why wouldn't I take the $750 and help get rid of a problem that I have? So I didn't want to go forward with anything on the landfill side, but necessarily start to look at, or at least bring it to your attention that, hey, I've got these two structures and I'm going to have to do something with these two structures in the foreseeable future.
But again, we just need the plan.
Tell
Tell us what the plan, we're
might,
gonna knock
you
it
know-
down, we're gonna put here, we're gonna put three things. That's a plan. So I think that's what we would want to know.
I could, well, that necessarily could change this request down to something where, I start off with a phase one planning,
Mhm.
kind of thing
Sure.
of like $25,000 and plan out exactly what I
Yeah.
think could fit there and what we could do and then come back.
And greatest use for you in all the things you need.
Right.
That's probably the
Right.
best next step.
That's,
And-
we're looking at, we're gonna have to probably help store some items from the police department,
Yeah.
right? Because their footprint is changing, right? So we're gonna have to do that. So, and prices at a premium, but I've got usable land that is with stuff on it that really should go.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yep.
it's just the price tag is quite large because of what it was.
I thought you had looked at tearing that out, just taking it all down. What was that
And
cost?
it was $3.25 million.
That's the 3.2.
Yeah.
Cost $3 million to take that building down.
It's sitting on top of the highway department. The thought is that either we knock her into the highway department and rebuild the highway department or just pull her off the top of it.
It's
Don't know exactly what to do yet. So, and what
It's
it
amazing.
housed. It's not necessarily the stuff that's there because it's really big shell, but inside that big shell is still the hopper, still the crane. Everything's still there. So it's just a building and we just utilize the area where they dumped the garbage
Yeah, yeah,
originally,
yeah,
right? That's what we're using. And then the backside of it, if you look up in the
Mhm.
highway department lunchroom, the hopper is above the suspended ceiling.
Wow.
Is
So
there,
that's an expensive takedown. is what you're saying.
Expensive
Holy
to take.
cow.
out.
because it was an
quickly.
incinerator, there's like, is there hazardous waste issues? And is there any grant stuff?
We started to look at that possibility like a brownfield, but it makes it, but there's
That makes it
requirements
worse.
on the brownfield side.
Yeah.
So that makes it very difficult to determine because you don't necessarily want to, say that you're a brownfield site,
Right.
right? I've got men working there. I got half my crew there,
Right,
Yeah.
right.
half our.
Did you
crew.
look at it
So
for the rifle range? I'm just curious if that was even.
that was,
Because
well,
you
we
could do a
looked at,
salt
we looked at
dome
everything,
somewhere
everything
else.
that we were lacking or everything that's there, plus what we would need. And yes, we see whether or not we could fit it,
That,
you know?
that's.
So, but if it was planned better, you have a lot of usable land that is not necessarily usable at present.
So like Todd Stewart was saying, is there could you hire someone to do a
Well, that's
all-in
what,
plan? Yeah.
in that thought, in that vein, the original, the thought was to encompass in the 325, but I'd almost feel better going with a $25,000 planning.
Yeah, that's a good
thought.
idea.
Exactly.
Say, okay,
That's a
this is
good
my vision of what way I would like to look.
That makes a lot
And
of
then
sense.
exactly how much then you can see it and say, okay, this is gonna work, it's not gonna work. So that takes 300 right off the top.
Well, and, okay, and the Waveney or the Irwin barn's gone. Okay, now I need to start making this up. I'm just saying, but you could start to move some pieces of the puzzle around a little bit
No, that's
and
$1 million.
give us, give
Right.
us some thoughts of that and then we'll get on board with it. I think that's probably the way to go.
I don't know if I would say the Irwin barn is gone, but yeah.
All right.
Yeah. No,
You know what I'm
There's a better
saying,
Way to phrase
you
that,
know.
but.
but then the question is, could that be a storage
A better use
capacity
for it.
for everything in Irwin Barn? And then what will you do with Irwin Barn? And then that's another.
If you need 25 or
Proposal.
$30,000 to figure out what's possible.
Yeah.
What makes
Makes
sense.
so much sense.
Right.
And we can, it's,
Okay.
How,
That sounds good.
secure is the roof of the barn at this point?
It's secure, but we need to,
Does it have a year or two in it? I mean, because that's what we're talking about. Because
I'll
we're
go
in
back
another
to the
budget.
structural engineer and ask him his opinion as to where that stands and.
Well, how old is it? How old is it?
But
It was there when John's
additional
father
repairs are from the
bought
way
the
to the
property.
So it's been
And
hanging
the
around a long time.
difference is that it could be right in the
It's got a couple of
middle
years.
the
Time.
Police department.
It's a couple of years. They don't make things like that anymore.
No, they don't.
Two from now, you're gonna be right in the middle of the police department. And you're gonna say.
I hope I'm not in the middle of the police. What happened? What I do?
Because you'll be funding it and
Oh,
all
oh,
that kind of stuff, and everybody's gonna say, oh my God, we can't take one more, and they're gonna say no. So postponing it 2 years is just like saying no for 10.
What's that?
Right.
What?
Phoning what?
If we postpone.
I got 10 years left.
if-
I
if-
don't want to leave this as a legacy, so I'd like, I'd
If
like
we
to have
say
this
the
one gone.
roof, we're gonna look at the roof in 2 years. 2 years from now, we're gonna be grappling.
You
with
the
police
barn or you're talking about the
barn.
the incinerator, the
Oh,
barn?
Incinerator.
he's talking about.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Yeah.
Talking about
The
Irwin.
relatively little barn.
Oh, I hear you.
And it's gonna come up and we're gonna say, no, we can't do it. And then it's gonna be
10
how many years?
Yeah.
Yeah. 4 or 5 until we can get back to it
I don't know.
realistically.
Okay.
Okay. On to more mundane topics.
Are there?
Yeah. Well, it's
Yes,
just,
we have. the
we have
dump
highway
sander.
equipment, parks infrastructure.
Yeah,
And then,
yeah.
the highway department is at 670. It's basically replacements for everything that we have. The two-wheel dump sander at $220,000. The model that we're replacing is 15 years old. It's a 2007. It's fought over 200 storms, driven 157,000 miles based upon its hours. The sweeper, exact same thing. It's a 2012. It's once they reach that 10-year mark and a sweeper needs to be replaced. The boom mower is a 2003. And then leaf collection system down one. Each one of those is a 20-year model, and then our equipment refurbishing. So,
We're down one or we
well,
need to
it's,
replace
we
one.
need to replace the
Okay,
one.
yeah.
We actually have 3 systems. They're quite old. It's one this year and another going forward.
Do we get anything for the ones we're replacing?
Not
or-
much,
Not
to be
much.
quite honest with you. We treat them very, very well, but it's 15 years old plus,
Mm-hmm.
right? So there isn't much left at the back end. The sweeper, we do a little bit better because we try to get rid of the sweeper a little bit earlier before she starts to run into problems. So we do a little bit better there. And the boom mower, that's a hit or miss. But the two-wheel dump sander, we normally do not get, we're asking, so we usually ask for around $10,000 back. It's what we're looking for is the number, but on a $220,000 purchase, it's not a lot of money coming back.
So these numbers are not net.
These are not net, no. The, this is because if I can't
No,
assume
right.
that I'm gonna get the trade. If I don't get the trade, you know, or the value, then I'm light, so
Okay.
it's not net.
The supply chain.
On the Antiques Roadshow.
It's close, right? It's
Getting
close.
there, Tom.
I'm sorry.
Does the supply chain play into any of this? Like
Yeah,
that
well,
people may
the
need it?
interesting thing is we just bought a truck. It's a 24. Okay, so I bought it last month and it's a 24, so it's a year plus out. We were able to save a year on John's truck just recent because we changed the color from orange to white. So we might be going off of our orange to a white, or a white or a silver, because that's adding time and adding a
Money.
little bit of expense, but a lot of time.
Wait, yeah.
But everything that we're looking at right now that's one of the reasons why we can't wait, because of the fact of it's a year plus.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm gonna get this budget July 1, right, June 1, and then it's a year plus from there. So the truck that I have has got to last another year and a half.
I just
which
have
is,
the
you know,
sinking
2
feeling
years.
we're paying at the top of the market with all this.
We actually did
supply
pretty good.
demand
The
imbalance.
last two purchases, we did pretty good.
No.
We bought one.
Yeah,
we
you
bought
have.
one, and
Oh,
then we
yeah.
came in and we were able to make the two budgets work into one. So we
You're-
did pretty good on that one.
Yeah.
It's expense averaging.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We prefer to buy during recessions, right? When
Right.
everyone's trying to.
Right.
That's the way.
But everybody else.
You can't
is,
do
you
it.
know, No.
One will come up during.
You
the
can't wait.
recession.
Yeah, yep.
We've had this situation where we paused and then you buy two, but then you got to remember that 15 years out from there, you got to buy
You owe
two
to,
again.
you need to.
So that was the problem too. That's why we split it over 15 years,
Yeah.
replacing one a year.
Two in 1 year doesn't allow you to do one in each year where you can do the cost averaging.
Tiger, we only have, just to refresh everybody's memory, we only have the one boom mower, as I
we have
recall, and
two.
we have two now?
We've
So
always
how
had two.
old is the other one?
It's a little bit more recent, but not totally.
But it's the only one that can do the cliffs, the,
Yes.
areas that are on a hill. So that's the value
Which
of
is
it.
necessary. Well, it's
Yeah.
all sightline improvements. That's all it is. All summer long, it's all sightline improvements is
Yeah.
what it does. It does some trail maintenance for
Yeah.
John, cutting along the trails at Irwin and other places, but primarily they're out every day on sightline improvement. This past year, one went down and we were in a quandary for a while with it because with the request for sightline, to open up the sightlines was off the hook, so to
And
speak.
the time to order that, to get it is,
Same exact thing. We
Yeah,
don't,
that's the other
6 months,
issue, yeah.
6 months or longer,
all right.
Keep going.
All right. The next is transfer station. It's, we have a request of $47,000. We have a repair for the container loading area. That's the area where the containers come in and out of in the back. That sits right over the top of our liner. So it's $25,000. You can imagine that scraping back and forth of the containers in and out. And then replacing of 4 of the containers at $24,000. We have 2 to replace right now, and we're taking out of our operating because they're past their useful life. We're asking for the additional 4. That'll take the contingency, the contingent of them, but they're 1998 vintage. We bought them when we actually created the transfer station. We haven't replaced them since.
Oh, they last a long time.
They last a long time, but they,
Mhm.
it's 20+ years now. And like I said, we're gonna take 2 out of our operating. We're gonna find a way to get 2 out of our operating, and then we just request the extra 4 out of this operating budget, and then we'll get the other 4 in capital if we can. Is that okay?
Mhm.
All right. Parks maintenance on the equipment side, John has 2 vehicles to replace. And then you can see the commensurate amount of work that we have. One item in here of note is the paint machine at $45,000. This is actually a self-propelled paint machine. And it'll actually reduce the staffing hours almost in half, if not by a third. So right now we've got 2 guys working 3 hours or more to lay out a field. This will be 1 guy for an hour. So we can actually save and actually spill that up. Am I right on that number?
3 weeks.
3 weeks, I'm sorry.
3
That's
weeks
right.
each season.
Right. So the thought is that we can within about 3 years, we'll save the cost of this machine just on manpower, and then we can actually utilize the manpower in a better way. We have $180,000 for the replacement of sidewalk plow. We put this off for at least 2 years, if not more. But we're at that point. It's very hard to talk about sidewalk plows when it's 62 degrees outside and you haven't seen snow.
Good thing
in
we
a
put
while.
that off. You were
Mhm.
smart.
Right. It was a good idea at the time. And then the rest of the items on here are all replacements of existing items. And we have 2 light towers that were on the recreation side that we're looking to replace. We bought 2 already in conjunction with the ice rink. We were able to purchase 2 used ones. They paid half, we paid half. We were able to put together the money for it for $12,000 for 2 light towers. Our share, we're looking to purchase 2 more used light towers for $25,000, and that should take up our contingent of and those are used constantly during all the large events in town.
Those are mobile, right?
Those are trailer mounted. Yes. Yeah. Right now you see 2 of them and they're at the rink. The 2 that we just purchased.
Mhm.
I don't know if you have any questions on any one of those.
So we've used the Family Fourth Committee money to purchase some of those light towers, haven't we?
We haven't yet. That's been an offer, but it,
Believe one of the 2 old ones we have.
What was that?
I'm not positive.
right. I know it's been offered because Tom Stowers offered it a couple of times, but that would be we could get into the exact same situation where we bought 2 with the rink. We could buy necessarily 2 with the if the Family Fourth wanted to do that and share cost and drop the cost in half
And
for
it
the
comes out
town.
of our budget.
Right. Which is a nice offer.
Good thought.
The next is Parks Infrastructure. It's at 2.4 million, $2.35 million. It's down from 2.5 million of last year. We have the standard field improvements every year for safety improvements as far as at the baseball fields and some of the soccer fields. Irrigation upgrades, it's really actually main replacement now. We're into the point where the mains have got to be replaced at least 1, if not 2 of our 12 separate systems that we have. We have $1 million in for Connor Field reconstruction. This came up as part of the discussion originally about where to put the police department building when we were looking at Saks. And when we looked at the nature of the fields in that area and what we could do, Connor Field is perpetually wet. So it has some usage problems, but we could build a diamond there, basically the infield of a diamond for 50, 60, 90, right? To utilize the entire thing, and then actually take up the area where this would be satisfy the drainage problems that we have there, and then allow it to be utilized pretty much for the entire year.
Is it for AstroTurf? Turf?
Turf.
You turf it,
Yeah.
okay.
Turf, the infield, but turf it for
Yeah.
various size fields, right? Just the infield. The rest of it would be grass. The rest of it's in excellent shape. Todd and Ryan have done a fantastic job for John. And so that was the thought when we were looking at fields overall, and where we would get the best bang for our buck. This was the one that came forward. And we've had this one in John's budget for quite a period of time.
But that was grassed.
It was grass. This
And
is
it's
going to
wet.
turf. It's wet,
So
right?
is the cost here all the AstroTurf?
This is the turf,
Because you're leaving the grass part that's dry.
that's correct. Right, and it would take up the drainage problems along the right field line.
What's the demand for baseball fields?
Fields in general are out.
I know
and
fields.
Baseball is up as well.
Okay,
you know.
because I know, because it's for so long lacrosse was just squishing out, I mean, do we need these fields? I mean, it's $1 million is a lot of money, right?
Right, well,
Yeah,
if
it's-
Mike Benevento will be here and he'll probably tell you the exact same thing, which would be yes,
Of course, he's a baseball guy.
Baseball's expanding. Baseball's looking at putting in, not just for this, but they're looking at, they want to come and put in a stadium at Capo. They want to transform Capo into a stadium. That's part of the master plan that had been developed at the time. And they over the winter
Where's
break.
is
they-
Capo?
It's the one up by Lapham.
Behind Lapham.
I left them.
Yeah, it's a full-size field behind Lapham.
So
that would
can
be
you
the
do
first
that in the
field.
Waveney? Isn't that in the whole Waveney area? Can you
It's
just
in the
throw
Waveney.
you can throw a stadium in Waveney? Isn't that
Well, we
kind of
would
a?
have to go ask permission. Yeah, it's in the Waveney zone. It would have to go through the town bodies. Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
part of the process, but that is the thought. And they have a substantial amount of donors already behind the facility.
And so did they do the varsity baseball at Mead where they redid it, or is it at Capo, like the
But
varsity?
that's what the play is.
The
The play
play.
is to move varsity to the high school campus.
Right, which makes sense.
And which makes sense. And they've raised privately quite a bit of money to do this.
Right.
So that's the.
I
that's
think
the
we're one
idea.
of the only baseball teams that's got a good bus to their field.
Well, it's kind of odd, yeah.
And how large a stadium is this?
It's a full-size stadium, so it's
Oh.
a 90-foot diamond, it's a major league diamond. I'll say
Wow.
major league, but.
Well,
it's a
the field's already there. It's not.
The field's already there,
Yeah.
right? It's just basically building the bleachers around it, the
Seating
stadium
and-
itself, and then,
And then maybe
enclose.
Probably turf it.
With turf, it.
I assume.
Absolutely.
Would
So
that
the-
be,
so the Field was artificial field and it was installed.
It's not an artificial field.
Oh,
it's
it's
all
still-
grass
No,
right now.
Grass.
This
Soccer,
would
the
be a
main soccer. field.
conversion. This would be converted to just the infield itself would be converted to turf. And that's predominantly where we have most of the drainage problems. Is where, and then you would be able to utilize it for various age groups of children playing baseball. And you would be able to then utilize it just for anything else that's played on there, soccer and what have you.
So the $1 million is just to turf, just the
Just the
infield?
turf, yes, yeah, but a 90-foot diamond, so it's a big footprint, bigger footprint. I should say.
Yeah, so that is-
if we do the capo play though, do
Exactly.
you need Connor?
Right.
We talked about that, and I
Yeah.
think that the nature was still yes, because
Okay, that's
then
it.
you would have 3 diamonds, right? So you would have Connor, you would have Mead, and you would have Capo. You have 3 diamonds to take care of JV, freshman, varsity, and then
All the town stuff and.
all the town stuff,
yeah.
Babe Ruth, Legion, whatever else. you have.
Softball.
Right.
would their priority?
Sure, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, would their priority be the stadium and that field over
Their
the
their
Connor?
priority would probably be Capo itself, just because that's part of their master plan. This is outside of what their master plan,
Well,
but
I would go
as far
for
as
that
looking at it
before.
holistically on a town-wide basis,
All right.
this makes very good sense.
Yeah, the being a flexible field is smart. That
Right.
really, like being able, anybody can play on it because you've got all dimensions. That's really smart.
Exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah,
what-
it would be, we would carry the pitcher's mound in and out.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the questions would be whether or not that athletic foundation and their contribution to the sinking fund to replace this thing in 10 years would include Connor, or if it's just going to be Capo.
We can ask
That can
them.
be a question when
Yeah,
when they
right.
arise.
Okay.
The,
So my question is, so is it correct to say that that maintaining a grass field is the same expense as installing a turf field and then replacing it every 10 years? Or is it more expensive to install a turf field and replace it every 10 years?
You can argue either way. It's close. Grass fields are more maintenance when you think of the fuel for mowing and fertilizer. And then there's the huge expense at approximately 10 years of replacing the carpet.
So if they're the same expense to maintain, that would imply that it's for a grass field to maintain it, it's $100,000 a year?
No.
Because it's $1 million for this Connor field, so that's $100,000 a year.
$1 million, but the infrastructure of the field, when it's time to replace the carpet, would not need to be replaced. But you'd be replacing just the carpet off the top.
Right.
So that's where, that infrastructure can last 30, 40 years.
I think the other dimension of the carpet in a turf field is the playability.
Right.
Exactly.
You lose so many days where you just can't play on a,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
looked at that, when we
Mornings
did the
and-
first turf field.
they're
water tower
useless. I mean,
turf.
they literally can be just useless. So, but you still got to cut the grass. You still got to do everything about them and you couldn't use it all weekend.
Yeah, when we did the water tower turf, we looked at that analysis. I remember we looked at that analysis and it was very difficult to determine, actual, to say exactly, maintenance wise, one way or another, and where do you get your play? But to Todd's point, the playability portion of it, that's why the
Yeah.
original water tower turf field was changed over. That's because
yeah.
we were losing so much time, so much play time
Yep.
up there. That it made the most sense for that. If you start to factor in a time or a cost for that, it more than pays for itself at that point. And
Is there
from
any
what I
resi-
understand, field sports, are through the roof as far as, the amount of need, that the amount of requests for turf time has not diminished. It's only expanded.
And there's no resistance about the quality of the turf for kids.
Not at.
It
well,
has some parts of the country, yeah.
There's
We've,
some
we've,
artificial
we've
shade.
had ours
Oh, yeah.
tested and we use a specific, material that's others. haven't. So.
There is a bill in the state legislature trying to ban it again.
But is that ours or is that the standard AstroTurf that everybody's
That's just-
excited about not using?
Entire one.
Present bill is banning any replacement of carpet and any new installation.
Oh, really?
The thought process is it's not.
Your text,
gonna
No. But it is hot.
But
and
it's
It is
getting to
environmentally
become an
challenging.
issue.
So let's keep plowing through one
Okay.
on the.
Can I ask a question, actually? Tiger, this is Colin Dobbin. I was just looking back at page 29 of your capital requests, and it looked like on the fields, we were spending about $500,000 a year up through fiscal year 21, and then 22, it jumped to 844. Then last year, it went to 2.5 million, and now it's back to 2.3. What caused such a huge increase from 500,000 to 2.5 and almost to 2.4 for next year? And is that going to be what's expected from the year going forward, or how many more fields are there to do, or will it go down after next year?
Okay, that was
Broad.
a lot of data.
Yeah,
Colin.
there was a lot of questions, I know,
Yeah.
but the numbers were just so dramatic, the increase from prior years to last year. And they are still pretty high for fields. I'm just wondering, is this something that the town is still gonna have to spend $2.5 million every year going forward? Or is this something just very special for these 2 years?
Well, in the out years, we're looking at for fiscal 25 is 1.7, then it drops to 1, stays at 1 for a couple, and then it jumps back up to 1.9. So we're somewhere in the $1.5 million range on average, or actually at $1.5 million range on average for the 4 years going forward. So there is a drop over the next 4 years for that. Speaking as to why we had a jump, we actually added I forgot exactly what fiscal year we went back to, but we started adding in at least 300,000 and now $600,000, 300 for the NCAF, 300,000 for the Waveney Park Conservancy. If you're looking at those, that's a $500,000 or more each year that we didn't have in prior years carrying forward. So I don't know. I don't have the sheet that you have because I only have the 23 and 24. I don't have a look back to 22 or earlier.
It's your presentation, page 29, that I'm looking at.
Oh, okay. So then John just mentioned as well, you refresh my memory, we had stadium lights for Dunning because we took over the maintenance of Dunning. The Parks Department took over the maintenance of Dunning when after the NCF came forward. So that was and then we had a playground for $455,000 for Waveney itself to replace a portion of the athletic facility that's there, the outdoor athletic facility, and then put in a children's playground. So that was another good chunk of change that probably made up the difference between the two.
Okay.
What's the replacement schedule for the AstroTurf that we are obligated to?
It's not, well, it really comes down to your GMAX rating, right? But it's
So-
about every 10 years.
That's what I recall.
Right,
So
so
how
that's-
many do we have now?
Huh?
How many do we have?
We have 4, well, 3.5, 3.5
This would be
fields
4
and
and a
then 2
half.
baseball fields.
And then,
What?
Plus Dunning.
You got 2.5 turf fields, right? Water
Oh, I
tower
see.
turf, 2.5,
2.5,
Dunning's
and then
3.5, and then the 2 baseball fields. But the baseball fields are only the skin. They're
Right.
not the outfield.
that's all coming.
So
up.
they're only the infield.
Just to
So-
keep it moving, 10 o'clock.
Sure.
Yeah.
2 thoughts for you. First of all, I think as Brian said, 70%, if I have the statistic right, of the students are playing some kind of sports.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a
At
good way to
least.
think
Yeah,
about this
yeah.
conversation. This is where they start to play. And so, when we think about lacrosse and soccer and softball and baseball and so forth. Any questions on these other items? The Mead Park walkway, the pickleball plaza? I don't know if people have any questions, but
No, Well, where are we on the Mead Park walkway? That,
The walkway's under design. That's actually, I won't say it's a mandate, but it's gonna be a mandate from the DOJ as far as that. That's the
Yeah.
entrance to Gamble, right? So as you walk down through there. So we're looking at having to do that access road and then the areas around the state, around those baseball fields to make them compliant.
okay.
And so that's under design. That's the designer's estimate of construction.
and the neighbors are okay with that. That's not an
Mead,
issue.
that's
That was
a
the other
different, this
side.
is,
Yeah.
this Mead Park walkway is in the back.
Yeah,
The
that's what I
back
thought,
parking lot. That's
yeah.
not the trail it's.
Past the
might-
pavilion, back.
might-
Mhm.
down,
Exactly.
yeah.
It might, the trail that might circumnavigate the pond. That's the Gold Star Walk Trail. That's an ARPA, that's a potential ARPA request.
Mhm.
But that's not in my capital budget.
Yeah.
And then and then there's 16 other locations, you know, of concern that we have. We, you know, if you have any questions, you can just certainly ask. And I can answer at any time. You want me to go on? There's not,
I think just
Nature Center we talked about.
about, I think
And
you
then
just have the sewer
wastewater
treatment.
plant. So the wastewater plant, we've got $285,000 for our UV replacement. We had that originally estimated at 700 to 800,000, that the numbers are coming in higher based upon the design. This is just to make up the difference. And then we have the first half of our inflow and infiltration study. We got the draft report the other day. We have a meeting with the designer. Right now, we're trying to slate that for March 6th. It's an in-house review of the draft. And then the draft will be finalized, and then we can come forward and talk to the, you know, to the WPCA and the board at that point in time. We have 500,000. I split it over 2 years just to, you know, try to soften the blow a little bit to say, okay, we'll do 500 this year, 500 next year, 500 in 24, 525 out of the million that we had slated. Obviously, we'll hit the low hanging fruit first. The, you know, the areas of biggest bang, but that's where we're at.
And is that replacement an upgrade or new
It's
or
Predominantly, it would be more along the lines of sewer lining, relining.
it's
And then,
relining? That's-
work inside the manholes, right? So,
I
and then
know.
a lot of work on, public education and outreach. Because our biggest thing is everybody turns their sump pump on. The moment you turn the sump pump on, and if it's connected incorrectly,
Yeah.
it's connected to the sewer plant. So we're treating stormwater, we're treating rain, right? So yeah, that's the problem is actually that public education and outreach side is huge, right? Because that actually saves us the most money,
Interesting.
easiest, right? Is just to get the person to put the hose in the correct location, put it into the catch basin, into the stormwater system, and not into the sanitary system. That's, you know.
They all turn them on at the same time, and that's where the study is.
We notice it the
invaluable.
moment it starts to rain, we notice the moment that they kick on. So and so that just tells us exactly where they're coming.
Any other questions for Tiger? I don't know, Bob or Colm? Can't see you guys.
You're there.
No, no.
Thanks, Tiger. It's very, very informative.
Yeah,
Thank you.
John, thank you so much.
Awesome.
Good happens after 10 o'clock. So we will call it a wrap.
Good. Yeah. I'm all
Thank
good.
you. Anything else? Last call? Nothing? Good. Okay. All right. Motion to adjourn.
Oh, I know.
Motion to adjourn. Chris, second. James?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Yeah.
Aye. Opposed? None? Thank you all very much.
Thanks,
Great
Tiger.
job. Sorry, that was a bit of a death march, but and thank you for the chocolates.
Well,
Least I could do.
You too, for the cupcakes.
Are we off?